Good morning. I'll give everyone a moment to come on in. All right, we're going to get started just to be respectful of everyone's time. Good morning and welcome to the 2025 Basalt Chamber Annual Meeting. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kris Mattera. I'm President and CEO of the Basalt Chamber of Commerce. It's a pleasure to see so many of you here today, and I know we're going to have more speakers flowing in as the day goes by. We've got a fantastic agenda ahead and incredible speakers, insightful discussions, and hopefully you're going to walk away learning a lot of information. First, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to everyone who made this event possible, to our dedicated board of directors. Thank you for your leadership and your guidance throughout the year. Your commitment is what drives our mission forward. I'd also like to thank our annual meeting sponsors. We have Martin Insurance Group, who's totally dominating the front here. Roaring Fork Club, Darren Cloud State Farm Insurance, who you probably saw at the welcome table. Loss Aspen, Terrain Eval Limited, and CCY Architects. It's their generous support that is vital to our work in making this possible. Please join me in showing them our appreciation. And if you don't have the opportunity to connect with them today, actually, sponsors, please raise your hand so people know who you are. So thank you so much. And if you have the opportunity, connect with them. I'd also like to express our gratitude to our Trailblazer level members, Alpine Bank, Howard Head Sports Medicine, First Bank, the Stedman Clinic, and Valley View. And if those members could raise your hands. Thank you so much for your support. Also, thank you to our venue hosts, Rocky Mountain Institute, and the RMI team, especially Beth and Hector. So Beth is running around the back. She's going to make sure coffee is stocked and we have more fruit available to you as the day progresses. And then Hector's our tech guy, who hopefully the tech gods smile upon us today. So there we go. So thank you to our sponsors, their lovely logos. All right. So I'm gonna, let's see, this year is one of growth and accomplishment, thanks to the hard work of our amazing team and the support of this business community. I would like to take a moment and introduce our new office manager, Bridget, wave. Our office manager, membership relationship coordinator, Bridget Ebling. She started the end of June, and many of you interacted with her during Chamber Pass program season, which is always a flurry of questions and emails and phone calls. But we're very excited to have her on board, and this is her first annual meeting, so hopefully she'll have a good experience jumping into the deep end. Today, you will hear insights and updates from community leaders in the Roaring Fork Valley, as well as learn more about major shifts at the state and national level in the tourism industry, the state legislature, workforce efforts, and the insurance industry. The morning will wrap up with a business panel discussion featuring fellow chamber members navigating change in their fields. Our theme, Navigating Tomorrow, Staying Ahead of the Curve, is designed to empower you, our members, with critical insights you need to proactively prepare for challenges and opportunities in 2026 and beyond. Our goal is that you walk away with the in-the-know information and a clear understanding of the landscape ahead to build a resilient and prosperous future for your business or nonprofit. Thank you again for being here. I'm excited for what we will learn today and achieve together in the future. Now let's get started. As you will see on the agenda, which everyone should have copies in front of them, we are fortunate to have the Colorado Insurance Commissioner, Michael Conway, who will be joining us via Zoom later this morning at 10 a.m. to provide the commissioner adequate time to go in depth with what is happening in the insurance market, which you may be hearing a little bit of it in the news, especially this week, especially with health insurance, and to provide adequate time for Q&A. My State of the Chamber presentation will be brief because I needed to yield time somehow, and it's going to be my presentation so we can hear the commissioner more. All right, so jumping in. So, because I'm going to keep this short, high-level items. So we are fortunate enough that we are one of 5 communities that received a CTO, Colorado Tourism Office, Destination Blueprint Grant. It's a technical assistant grant, and with it, it includes a destination assessment, so research, data, surveys, followed by a community visioning and action planning workshop, and 100 hours of consulting to advance priority projects. So what does this mean? Basalt has not had a strategic plan when it comes to tourism, and this is what we're hoping to accomplish with the state's help. We don't have the means financially to pull this off, so really grateful for this technical assistant grant because they're going to allow us to do this work. And we want to determine what the future of tourism is for Basalt, but in a collective manner. So to how you may have participated in the town's master plan project, feedback during the Midland Ave streetscape. This is going to be one of those projects where we really want to hear from the community, and not just residents, but local businesses, to make sure that your input is helping us move forward to what tourism looks like in Basalt so it feels appropriate to you. One thing I really appreciate, and Jill, who will go into it more in her tourism presentation in a bit, is that the state is really aligned of enhancing the local lifestyle and not having tourism become what may seem as extractive. So the idea is that tourism actually enhances your quality of life, not takes away from it. So our goal is by the end of this 11-month grant process, we're going to have a tourism strategic plan that is a shared community vision. Now, how can you get involved? There's a lot of QR codes in front of you. There's QR codes here. It's all the QR codes. So there's 2 different surveys that we are launching today. There's the resident sentiment survey. So anyone who's pretty much from like Woody Creek to like Blue Lake Cerise Ranch is what we're considering, and up to Rudai is what we're considering the Basalt area. We are not looking at the actual town limits. It's kind of this mid-valley community. If you were in that area, we want your feedback on the resident sentiment survey. As a bonus, there will be a drawing for $250 to any Basalt Chamber member and 2 Iron Mountain Hot Springs soak passes. So we want you to take the survey. We want really good feedback because, again, we need your input or else we can't really develop a plan that's going to work for you. Similarly, we have the tourism stakeholder survey. So this is if you're in the tourism industry or adjacent to. So I am talking your hotels, your retailers, your restaurants, anyone who essentially serves and works with a visitor to this area, and we do count part-time residents as part of that. We want you to fill that survey out as well. We want to hear from industry as well as local residents. Additionally, we're going to have a community open house with the state on November 12th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Basalt Regional Library. And this is going to be similar to those master plan projects. It's going to be an interactive experience to get your feedback and really dive in of like, what's great about this community? What do we want to enhance? What do we want to show off to visitors? Where do we have opportunities to capitalize? I know fall is a great time for us, but we don't have the same traffic as we do in July. Maybe that's an opportunity. Who are you seeing come and visit that we may not be thinking about? We know about visitors from Texas. We know visitors from the Front Range. What's another great group that we could capitalize on that is really a right fit to come here for Basalt for tourism? We need your feedback because I'm one data point. You are many data points. So we invite you to this, and then key members in the tourism community will be invited to a smaller stakeholder workshop the following morning. That will be by invite only, but we will get that to you momentarily. And a little bit of a teaser. Again, Jill's going to talk more about this. You're going to hear a bit about America's 250, Colorado's 150, and I will eventually figure out how to say that first bullet. There are videos of how to pronounce it. I have not gotten there yet. But essentially, it's a combination of 250, 150. In addition to these milestone anniversaries for our country and our state, Basalt will also be turning 125 next year. So stay tuned for different opportunities to get involved, promote your business, whether you're a traditional, like an office type business, or you're one that's more visitor facing. There's a lot of different ways to get involved in these birthday celebrations, and it's literally going to be nationwide. So we hope you'll be in a festive mood and want to celebrate. But again, Jill will talk more about that. And other upcoming chamber events. So we do voter education. And on October 20th from noon to 1 at the Basalt Regional Library, we'll be doing What's on Your Ballot with Count Me In Colorado, who's part of the Colorado Fiscal Institute. So it'll be going over the 2 statewide ballot measures, and then representatives from 7E, which is the Childhood Tax District. They will also be providing a presentation of what they're doing. So it's an hour full of voter education. We hope you can attend. Our members, Dominion Payroll Colorado, is doing their annual employment law seminar. It is a very long day. It is drinking from the fire hose, but if you do anything with HR or need to be in compliance with HR laws, this is for you. So it's not just HR professionals. I go to it every year. I learn a lot of what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, how not to get sued. Very important things. And again, those 2 destination blueprint events are happening on November 12th and 13th. And then our annual traditional combined after hours with the Carbondale Chamber will be on November 19th at Eagle Crest Nursery. For those of you who have been in the past, you know, they do a little early holiday shopping with a special discount. So this is one to mark on your calendars. You don't want to miss it. We had 180 people last year, so it's a great networking opportunity. Our season of small, which is more than just Small Business Saturday, kicks off on Black Friday and then continues through December 24th. We want to promote all things local and supporting your small local businesses. And then our holiday business after us with Alpine Bank will be on December 11th. Plus, we have our board of directors election. The application is now open if you are interested in serving on our board of directors, or you can come talk to me. That QR code is both on the screen and on the paper in front of you. We love to have people who want to come in and help serve and make this community great. All right, and with that, Doug, you are up. Yes.
It's like when you have public comments at a town council meeting, you get 3 minutes. We got a little timer going here. So can everybody hear me okay? So well, just I am the interim town manager for Basalt. I filled in for Ryan Mahoney when he took this position at Pitkin County. And we were able to hire, the council, were able to hire Gloria Koshberger, who starts November 17th, which just happens to be 5 weeks and 2 days from now. And who's counting? She's going to be a great addition. She's got great energy, and I think she's going to bring fresh eyes to what we have as a council. And I think the council in general had deferred a lot to Ryan over the years because he had most tenure, most insights, most institutional knowledge. And I think now that the council is leaning in more to some of the activities in town, they're expressing their view and their priorities in a different way. And I think that what I'm trying to do is just keep staying in the boat, not creating a lot of headwind for Gloria. And when she starts, assist with her in implementing the priorities of the council, and then also outreach with the various citizens boards so we have representation of what the town wants, just not what the council wants. The council's is just a directive of the elected. So with that, I just say that the town actually is in good shape financially. I'm also finance director. We're going to be issuing our budget next Tuesday to council. It will be a balanced budget. We have a little too early to tell whether we'll be ending the year in the black or the red. We have 3 months to go, but right now all indicators are that I believe we will be exceeding budget and that we'll have more revenue than expenses. We had in the general fund a budgeted use of funds of $990,000. It's principally driven by the assistance Basalt was giving to the mobile home park. So with that, just a couple of headlines on coming up capital items. We have the Confluence Park is the where it starts at 7-Eleven. There's a little park that goes all the way through to 82. There's a work being done on that. Will be going on this year. And there's also be a grant from CDOT for safe routes to schools. So there'll be more work being done on Two Rivers Road up by 7-Eleven. So that's a big project going on with our public works area. We're also completing our second duplex over at Stotts Mill. Be taking our housing stock for affordable housing for town employees and for town residents up from 14 to 24. So it doesn't sound like a lot compared to what Aspen and Pitkin puts up as far as numbers go. But for a little town here that's got maybe $10 million in sales tax, we're doing punching above our weight, I believe. So I think that's kind of the headlines. I got 1 minute left. Does anyone have any questions about what's going on and what's happening or anything that of interest to the group? All right. Well, I got cede my remaining 45 seconds to John here. He's got a more interesting topic here. This the Pitkin Airport. That shouldn't be too disruptive. So.
We always appreciate Basalt's generosity.
That's
Good to see you. And Kris, is my presentation loaded up? You sent it in? Move the microphone up. Okay. And then this. I'm not used to that. Thank you. So I am here with Commissioner Patty Clapper. We're here to talk a little bit about a small project we've been working on for a while. a little bit down the road from here. So Airport Modernization Program. Go ahead, Kris. I'm going to get up here so I can point. We love exceptionalism in this valley, right? We love being number one. Unfortunately, right now at the airport, we're number one in the wrong things. The most stressful airport, most delays, right? Worst passenger experience. And we're looking with this project to flip the script, right? That we want to be number one in the world with the most sustainable airport. We want to be number one with customer experience. And we want to be the first net zero and possibly net positive airport in the world. And so we've started a project. Go ahead, Kris. Mandate really came last year with the election. We had 2 ballot questions on. One was really allowing the commissioners to move forward with decision-making on the airport. The other would have slowed that down, and the decision was almost 2-1 to continue moving forward, the results from both ballot questions. So we are now moving forward with what we believe is a community mandate. It was a 12-year discussion before that to get to this point with planning. Go ahead and flip. In terms of the scope of the project, this darker gray outline is the airport property. The good news is only areas that are shaded in a color will be redeveloped as part of this project. And so that includes rebuilding the entire runway, airfield, taxiway, new terminal, multimodal parking, all the land side, a new fixed-based operator, and then a new west side taxiway and ramp. Airports never do this all at once, but we like to be exceptional, as I started, so we are going to be doing this all in one shot, with exception of this west side. Sorry, that's good anticipation. I'm almost there. Right now, our total estimated budget for this project is $575 million for the portions the county is responsible for, and about $105 million for the portions that our fixed-based operator is committed to. So we're looking at about $680 million project or set of projects over the next 5 years. Go ahead, Kris. In terms of what we are trying to accomplish, we've spent a lot of time engaging the community over the last several years. We had an airport visioning process. That process included 120 citizens over an 18-month period who came up with a set of 96 recommendations for redevelopment of the airport. We've distilled those down into a set of goals. Safety first. We want to make sure we're adaptable and future-proof. Environmental responsibility. Again, we're benchmarking against the most sustainable airports in the world, and our intent is to beat them. Community, reflecting local values and culture. Economic vitality. We have a lot of goals that were defined by the community that are going into the programming and design of this facility. Go ahead and do one more. And so where we are today, we have what's called an airport layout plan that's required by the FAA for us to get grant funding. That has been approved. We have our environmental approvals. We have to go through NEPA processes in order to do a project of this scale. We have just gotten approval for all phases of the project, save that west side ramp and taxiway. That will be a separate scope. We are now in the process of figuring out the funding for this. On the airfield side, that's roughly $270 million of this project. We are anticipating getting 90% of that through federal grants. That is typical. That's not atypical, except for airports of our size. It's a big chunk. So we're going to be looking at how they can fund that over years. We're in that discussion right now. We're also going to be talking, I'm going to have Patty talk here in a second about a ballot question that we have on the ballot for this next year. But really the airfield primarily funded through FBO revenues and federal grants. What we need to borrow money for and use airport revenues for, no tax dollars, no tax dollars. You're going to hear that maybe 3 or 4 more times. But what we'll use airport revenues for is primarily the terminal, multimodal transits, connectivity, and parking. So more to come on that. In terms of timeline, we've got our environmental review is done. Financial considerations will run through and beyond this project. And then we have our runway and terminal. We are currently in design. We have hired Kimley Horn to do our runway and airfield design. They're in process. We've hired ZGF, who designed this building, by the way, which was also a first in terms of commercial net zero buildings, to design the terminal and land side. In terms of financial considerations, though, we do have a bonding question coming up this November, and I'm going to hand this over to Patty because she can speak to this better.
Hi, thank you all for being here. To be really quick, yeah, we have bonding question, ballot question number 1C on the November ballot. It is to bond money to fill in the gaps between federal funding and local funding dollars. And it's a revenue bond coming off of revenues generated off the airport, not a tax, property tax or sales tax. It's a revenue bond paid for by the enterprise fund at the airport. Want to be very clear on that. So we're bonding for quite a significant amount of dollars. We're doing so because we, as I think everybody's aware of, are unsure of where construction costs may go, labor costs may go, supply and demand issues. So we don't want to have to keep coming back to the voters. We want to get this project done, as the voters last November by 66%, 67% approved for the Board of County Commissioners to move forward. That gives us the dollars to do what the voters asked us to do. So we are asking for a yes vote, of course, on ballot question 1C to move forward to get the airport done within that 9-month hopeful time frame of closure, which I think John may speak to next, but I just had to put it in plug. He can't speak to it because I'm an elected official. I get to bring in all the good politics into the conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty. I didn't hear a thing you said. That's all right. So some things to pay attention to on this chart that I think is really relevant to this group. Airfield design, we expect to have complete in the second quarter of 2026. And we will start mobilization and what groundwork we can do on the airfield immediately following. And that work will not interrupt the operation of the airport. The terminal design is going to take longer. There's a lot of community conversation that's going to be part of that design. We're going to take more time with that. But what we are really looking at is kind of this golden window here is Q2 2027 for 3 quarters having a full airport shutdown. And that will allow us to fully rebuild the airfield and realign it with FAA safety standards. And it will also allow us to really get a lot of the earth moving and foundation work done for the terminal in a way that won't interfere with future air traffic. Our intent is to close the last day of ski season, so in April 2027. So that will be a fantastic snow year. We'll have more snow than I can almost guarantee it. And then in 3 quarters to reopen the airfield, we will be operating out of our existing terminal then until probably first quarter of 2029. So a lot of logistics, a lot of gymnastics. The county is estimating a 10% decrease in sales tax during this window. So go ahead, Kris. Go ahead. Public engagement. We've got a whole lot of work to do. We have what are called common ground recommendations that were the result of our previous public process. we're going to do a lot of, again, outreach. We've created task forces. We have an airport advisory board, all of whom are going to be looking at design concepts, particularly that ZGF comes up with around our terminal, for compliance with how are we doing against our community goals? Which ones align best? We're going to be working through those. There's going to be a number of opportunities through December for those who are interested to participate. You're going to be seeing a lot more coming out on open houses, focus groups. We're going to be doing road shows and pop-ups and surveys. I'm going to give you a barcode here, or 3D barcode, whatever they call those, for a newsletter if you're interested in keeping track of what we're doing and what your opportunities are to participate in this process. But I will tell you, we view this infrastructure not just as Pitkin County, this is valley-wide infrastructure. So we want voices. We want voices from throughout the Roaring Fork Valley and all the users of our airport. I know I'm running out of time. First opportunities, we're going to have an open house on October 15th and October 30th. First one is at the Aspen Fire Station. Closer one to here on the 30th is at the Hoffman Hotel. Go ahead. I'm going to try and get to questions. I will take questions while hopefully some of you take a picture of this barcode and sign up for our newsletter on this project. So do I have 3 minutes for questions? Okay. Yes.
Let me bring the mic to you so we
Oh.
record it on Zoom.
Hi, John. Thank you. Can you touch on concerns about noise and exhaust with the expansion?
Yeah, so that's something that the citizens committee that made these recommendations spent a lot of time looking at. And what they measured was the new technologies that are enabled bought through this airport expansion on a per passenger basis. There is an opportunity for us to reduce emissions. The regional jets like the Airbus A220-100 actually is quieter than what has been flying in on a commercial basis. General aviation aircraft have a similar technology trend, but we may see less impact or improvement there right away than on the commercial side. And we're working on sustainable aviation fuels and all kinds of other things too. Any other questions?
Come in on. Hold on.
Yes, with the theme of modernization and sustainability, and to this gentleman's question about noise impacts as well.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, say maybe 30 years or something to electric aircraft and the possibilities of that. Is that something you all are considering setting space aside for or infrastructure to accommodate that? I would imagine that would be maybe more private than commercial as an inertial adoption. But.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the goals is future proofing, and we understand that technologies are going to change. One of the key recommendations, and I'll connect this dot in a second, it's not going to sound like one, is how we do airplane parking. Because right now, if you go up there during a busy day, it's like playing a game of Tetris with a $65 million jet, right? And you don't know where a jet's going to be. So if you think about that in the future of trying to plug in an electric jet, really hard to know where to put your infrastructure and how to do it. We are not future-proof for that right now. So one of the key recommendations is doing what's called ICAO parking, or having what's a more organized parking. What that allows us to do is run the conduits and anticipate the electrification of the airfield. And so that's something that we both built into our lease agreement with our FBO to anticipate, something we'll be anticipating during design also.
Well, John, I want to thank you very much. I'm going to also make a plug for the Pitkin County Comp Plan is doing an open house today at the Basalt Regional Library. So if you want to give feedback on land use in particularly unincorporated areas of Pitkin County and their whole plan for its Vision 2050, I believe, definitely be a part of that. I went to the one in Carbondale. Give yourself some time if you want to read all the signs and give thoughtful feedback, but definitely please get involved. This is all part of our community, and it's important to have your feedback. So thank you so much, John. Thank you, Patty. And I also want to let you know the chamber is committed to working with Pitkin County and keeping all of our members informed about the airport modernization project, especially as we get closer to that 9-month closure. I would also like to introduce our next speaker, Jill Corbin, who's the Deputy Director of Destination Stewardship for the Colorado Tourism Office. She will be providing us with a tourism industry update, and this portion is sponsored by the Roaring Fork Club.
Great, thanks, Kris. And good morning, everyone. I'm Jill Corbin, Deputy Director of Destination Stewardship at the Colorado Tourism Office. I also live in Glenwood, so it's great to be here today. And I just want to provide a brief update about the workings and goings-ons in the Colorado Tourism Office, highlighting the progress we've made in advancing responsible tourism, growing our visitor economy, and ensuring that the benefits of travel reach every Colorado community. At the Tourism Office, who are we? We sit within the Office of Economic Development and International Trade. Our mission is to empower all to thrive in Colorado's economy, and specifically for the CTO, our vision is to empower the tourism industry by inspiring the world to explore Colorado responsibly and respectfully. Next slide. Just to give a brief snapshot of what we're tracking at the CTO and to give an update on how 2024 went with the tourism industry. It was another strong year for the tourism industry. Traveler spending reached $28.5 billion, generating $1.9 billion in state and local tax revenue and creating over 4,000 new jobs. We welcomed over 95 million visitors, which was a 2.3% increase from 2023, with most of that growth coming from day trips. So I like to share this snapshot just so you all know that we have very thorough and extensive research reports and data that we collect on an annual basis that are all available for anyone that go back about 20 years. If you're interested in diving into research data and its impact on our economy, and that's all available on the OEdit website. To give a brief update and overview of what the CTO's priorities are and what we do, our main priority is to market the state of Colorado and inspire the rest of the US and the world to come here and visit and spend their money and then go back home. We do this as our domestic marketing team receives a significant portion of our overall budget. Our domestic marketing strategy uses an integrated omni-channel approach. We try to connect with travelers on all various platforms, digital, social, influencer partnerships, earned media, publications. Colorado.com is the state website. If you're not familiar with that, I encourage you to check it out. It's really a great website. And this unified storytelling approach ensures that all of our message is consistent year-round and inspires responsible travel across all regions of the state. Next slide. This is our winter campaign that we're sharing out with the rest of the world. It's called Shine a Little Brighter. Again, if you're not familiar with this, all the videos lie on YouTube. You can just Google Visit Colorado and all of these videos will pop up. But it's a really wonderful campaign that highlights kind of the magic of Colorado in winter and inspires travelers from across the US to choose Colorado for their winter vacation. It also is focused on driving visitation to lesser known areas around the state. That's a big part of our marketing effort. And we're tracking how successful our marketing efforts are year after year. We use a research company called Samari. They provide us with marketing insights. This winter campaign in FY24 generated $1.92 billion in economic impact and achieved a $978 per one return on investment. So for every $1 that was spent on marketing, we received a $978 ROI. The creative also consistently ranks in the top 10 of all tourism ads. So we're really trying to showcase Colorado very well. In addition to driving economic growth, our other campaign is really focused around destination stewardship. It's called Do Colorado Right. Not only do we want people to come and visit and stay in Colorado and support our local economies, but we also want to talk to them in a very kind of approachable and accessible way that encourages them to act like a local when they're here and to adopt some Colorado ethos and how we like to and hope to that visitors and everyone will really behave in our communities, in our natural landscapes and so forth. And so all of this effort and messaging is under the campaign of Do Colorado Right. It's really about encouraging mindful travel, respecting wildlife, local communities, natural spaces. Topics also include trash disposal, etiquette on trailheads, carpooling in public transport, and reusable bottle usage. So we're trying to encourage all of the visitors to act like a Coloradan when they're here as well. We also know from our SMARI insights that sustainability is a big deal with visitors that come to Colorado. We find that traveler surveys show that Colorado ranks at the top among competitor states for protecting and preserving natural resources. We were really excited when this came in. We're like, ooh, we're above Alaska and Montana, all of our competitor states. So it's a big deal for winter travelers, especially when they're selecting where to visit and vacation, that sustainability is a factor in that. Next slide. And a bit about the nuts and bolts of what we do within the CTO from a destination stewardship standpoint. Our goal is to help destinations protect their long-term cultural and natural assets while supporting economic vitality and community resistance. The Colorado Tourism Office was the first state tourism office in the US to have a dedicated destination stewardship department. And these are some of our priorities that all of our programs and initiatives are tied to and are focused on elevating and uplifting in all that we do. We're working to protect Colorado's natural and cultural resources. We're working to support thriving, regenerative communities and also ensure a welcoming experience for all travelers. And we have about 20 plus programs within the CTO, in addition to all of our marketing efforts that are tied to directly helping communities achieve their own goals. One of those being the Destination Blueprint program that you all are going to go through. Next slide. Hopefully you all are familiar with this. We went through an extensive 18-month planning process about a year ago, which culminated in a statewide destination stewardship strategic plan that launched last September, along with 8 regional plans and a glossary of terms. So this is hopefully a very valuable resource to all Coloradans involved in the tourism industry. You can find everything about this plan and the regional plans, including the glossary of terms at ctostewardship.com. So again, if you're interested in diving a little deeper into this work, you can go to that website and it's all there. I also wanted to take a moment to touch on the importance of international tourism. We focus a lot of our efforts on international tourism because they are the highest value traveler that comes to Colorado. They spend 3 to 5 times more per trip than domestic travelers. They travel year round and they often visit midweek, which helps to smooth seasonal and midweek demand. Their impact supports kind of those off-peak times, especially in hotels, restaurants, retail and restaurants across the calendar year. And to give a snapshot of what we're seeing on the international travel front, there are some headwinds. COVID did not help at all. We are still tracking and trying to recover from all the impacts that were associated with COVID, but there is projected growth here. We do expect a dip in 2025. There are some additional headwinds that we're facing that were not foreseen, but we're working through those, and we are projecting that international visitation will have a full recovery by 2028. And then it will actually be exceeded its 2019 numbers by 6% in 2029. This slide I thought would be helpful for everyone because this shows who's coming to Colorado and who are our primary markets. And so these are who the CTO is talking to. We have a really robust and dynamic international travel team that is traveling around the world talking to a wide variety of different countries to encourage them to come to Colorado. In Europe, we have Germany, the UK, Canada, and Mexico are our biggest markets, and some Asian markets away as well. Brand awareness and intent to visit Colorado remains high, and that's thanks in large part to the efforts of our Colorado Tourism International team and all of our agencies and partners that we have around the world. And speaking of some fun things in the future, I wanted to give an update. Kris asked me to talk a little bit about what is going on in 2026 with our 250-150 event. I am not going to try to say that word either. I was like, that's crazy to try to have to say that in a presentation. But some people do it. I have seen them say it. So as you probably are aware of, we have an extraordinary opportunity to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, Colorado's 150th anniversary, and Basalt's 125th birthday. So this commemoration invites all Coloradans to reflect on our shared history, diverse heritage, and collective pride. There's a lot that's going to be going on around the state. There is a 250-150 commission that represents a wide array and diverse and many diverse communities from across Colorado. They have been hard at work for quite a while now, and they've come up with these 12 signature initiatives that will be going on around the state in the next year. And certainly this is not an exhaustive list. There are a lot of other opportunities happening at the local level, but these are just the big 12 initiatives that the commission has been working on. The two that the CTO is leading and kind of the lead partner on is Passport Colorado, which is a statewide exploration program encouraging residents and visitors to discover new places. And we're also spearheading a drone show program, as well as supporting heritage exhibitions, cultural events that will all take place in the coming year. A bit more about the Colorado Passport program. It's more than a check-in program. It's really about a journey of discovery, and it's focused on Colorado residents. It invites residents and families to explore all of Colorado, the landscapes, stories, and cultural treasures that define our centennial state. It's about deepening our connection to place while celebrating Colorado's role in the nation's history. Go to the next slide, and this is how to use it. You can go to colorado.com and sign up. You can register for the digital pass and then start exploring throughout the next year. As you check in at destinations across the state, you'll unlock discounts and experiences that make your trip even more rewarding. And it's just a fun and accessible way for every Colorado resident to enjoy the 250-150 celebration. And the Colorado Drone Overview. So this drone show series, it offers a sustainable, visually stunning way to celebrate 250-150 as an alternative to fireworks. And so each of these drone shows are going to be 14 minutes that combine a statewide commemorative portion along with local storytelling. We have about over 100 drone shows that are scheduled to take place throughout the year. The first one kicked off just a few weeks ago at a CU Buffalo football game. And so that was a lot of fun to see. And so we're just really excited and thrilled to see all of these going on around the state. If you'd like more information, it's all on the 250-150 website, and they're building out and looking for more partners for the drone shows on an ongoing basis. And for all businesses or anyone that's interested in co-branding opportunities, the 25150 Commission has put together a toolkit that anyone can access and download to get access to any of these 25150 co-branded marketing materials. So it's a really great opportunity for your business if you want, a window decal or a digital badge for your website or something that just shows that you're a part of this celebration. And that's all free too. So I encourage you all, if you're not familiar with the Colorado Tourism Office, to please connect with us. Collaboration is really at the heart of our work. It's really all that we do. We are here to serve our communities and destinations around the state. So we can't do that without you raising your hand and letting us know who you are, what your needs are, and hopefully we can form a collaborative partnership. The Care for Colorado Coalition is a great way to get involved. This coalition currently sits at over 220 organizations, federal and state agencies, local businesses that have all raised their hand and have said, hey, we are committed to responsible travel and to getting the message out about destination stewardship and encouraging visitors and residents to do Colorado right while they're out and about traveling around the state. So this is a great opportunity to connect. Their quarterly meetings, it's all free. We have some great assets. If you all are interested, some window clings, some social media stills that are all tied to our Do Colorado Right, Leave No Trace principles. And so it's just a wonderful opportunity to kind of have that collective voice out in Colorado and encouraging people to behave responsibly when they're out and about. The other one is our Inclusivity and Travel Coalition. This is also open to anyone who's interested in connecting with us to discuss and work towards more opportunities of how Colorado can present itself as a welcoming place for all to visit. So we just encourage, if you're interested in that kind of opportunity or topic, please join us in that conversation to work together to help ensure that that always stays true. And the last but not least, if you go back, yep, we have GovCon. This is our annual tourism conference that takes place once a year all over the state. This year it's going to be in Colorado Springs in about a week and a half. So we've all got we're all working really hard to get this finalized so we can meet about 500 tourism industry professionals in Colorado Springs to have further discussions on what our partners' needs are, more updates on the CTO, more updates from our partners about all of the things that are going on around the state in regards to the tourism industry. So I encourage you, if you've never been, please join us. It's a wonderful opportunity to connect with peers and to kind of hear the latest and greatest from your colleagues about the tourism industry. And registration is now open. I think it's now down to 13 days. So with that, I think that's it. I went through that pretty fast, so I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Yes, I'm happy to pass the mic around. Jill, you talked about some of the headwinds. What is CTO looking to do to kind of address some of them and mitigate some of these challenges that are unknown in terms of their predictability of how they will continue on or not, especially in the international markets?
Yeah, that's the billion-dollar question, really. There are a few things that we're restricted from doing because we sit within the state government. And so what we can do is, and this is Andrea, our Director of International Tourism, what she has done a fabulous job through COVID and beyond. It's really about those partnerships that we have with countries around the world. And so she was really instrumental. I'm not even sure when this took place, maybe a year ago or maybe 8 months ago. When there was some things happening beyond our control around offering a welcoming position to visitors from various countries, she made a concerted effort to make sure that the word was out to those countries, specifically Canada and Mexico, to let them know that Colorado welcomes them and that we are here. So she has a ton of great relationships that she's able to leverage. And not only her, but I didn't show you, if you saw the slide of the 50 people that are on the international team, there's 3 people that are on staff at the CTO, but then we have agencies that we partner with around the world, in Germany, in the UK, in Canada, in Mexico, in Australia. They are going there all the time to keep those relationships strong, to keep Colorado top of mind for those partners, and to continue to say, we're open for business here in Colorado. We want your business. Please come and visit us. So that's a broad answer. We're going to do what we can, certainly. And we're in a position to be a little bit more reactive than we like being in, but we're staying on top of it as best as we can.
Thank you, Jill. Do we have any other questions? Yes.
Does the state and CTO, or does CTO coordinate with CDOT at all in terms of your past decade of distributing to alternative visits in Colorado, or even within the state, whether it be traffic in general or news about the summer construction season?
Yes, we work very closely with CDOT on a wide variety of different things. We have a whole crisis communications toolkit and effort that is on hand, ready to go. We're able to push out, especially on Colorado.com and on social media, when there are kind of unforeseen traffic closures or whatever it may be. We work with CDOT on traveler safety, traffic safety, getting the message out. They did a really funny series a few years ago that kind of presented the visitor driving as like a wild animal a little bit in the winter. So it was really funny. It was kind of done in like, look at this wild animal on I-70 and whatnot, trying to scrape off their window with a credit card and so forth. And so there's lots of funny and kind of helpful messaging that we try to partner with them on to push that out to visitors that come to Colorado. We're also working with them on, one of our biggest goals is dispersion. We are not trying to encourage people to go on a Friday afternoon up I-70. We're trying to get them to go on different days to help them understand the benefit of traveling on different days and how that can very much enhance the visitor experience. We don't want visitors to come here and then to have to sit in traffic, and then that has the potential to be pretty detrimental to their experience in Colorado. So that's absolutely not what we want. So we're trying to certainly encourage them. We did a big partnership with Do Colorado Right, and she was a NASCAR driver, our Formula One driver, Saber Cook, who's out of Grand Junction, where she did a whole campaign about taking the Mustang, hopping on public transportation, how great and easy that is for all visitors to do. We also work with them very closely on electrifying all of our scenic and historic byways, because those are really kind of off the beaten path ways for travelers to get around, and they're hidden gems around the state. And if we can encourage travelers to do that while in an electric vehicle, that's even better. So yes, we work very closely with CDOT.
Any other questions? All right, John.
Kris touched on this, but I'm still not clear in my own head what the source of the headwinds are now and why you think the headwinds will subside in the next couple of years.
There's we, for the international travel work, we do a lot with the United States Travel Association. They've received some reductions in funding in the last couple years, and there's also a company called Brand USA which is similar to the CTO. It's kind of the destination marketing organization for the US. So they're a big partner with us. They have also received a reduction in funding. So those are part of the headwinds. Another one that we're concerned about is just the visas are a concern. We're just kind of watching and seeing what's going on with that. And then kind of airport traffic issues and kind of wait times for visas to get into the States, accessibility of those visas for travelers, things like that. Yeah.
Well, Jill, I think we're doing pretty well on time. If you haven't had the opportunity to explore Colorado tourism, wealth of resources, that's the one amazing benefit. Well, not one of many amazing benefits we have with this Destination Blueprint program is we are really diving deep into the data. So we're getting spending reports, we're getting visitor reports, and we're actually going to get that moving forward. And so we really want to dive into the numbers and see who's visiting us, who are our high value visitors who have lower impact than maybe some other populations, and encouraging that responsible visitation. And I know the state seems to be very unique in this destination stewardship model where we really want tourism to be a force for good and not be detrimental to the local community. So again, I will encourage you all to come and participate in the community open house, take the 2 surveys that are on the QR codes. If not today, you know, in the coming days, we're gonna probably close it out around Halloween, but please provide your information and also share those links out with other individuals. We really want this to be a really high response rate and not just 20 people who take a survey, but ideally hundreds of people who provide their feedback so we can shape what tourism looks like in Basalt. But I just want to say thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you.
All right, and we are now going to do some magic when it comes to transitioning. All right, Ed, all right, we are good. All right, I'm going to introduce Ed Seelever, who is with the Colorado Chamber of Commerce. He's the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, as well as the editor of its news site, The Sum and Substance. He oversees efforts to enhance the business climate with a focus on workforce development and environmental sustainability. Before joining the Chamber, Seelever had a 28 career in journalism, earning numerous awards, including Colorado Journalist of the Year in 2020. He's also the author of 2 books and lives in Wheat Ridge with his family. And I will have a shameless plug as much as I did last year, is that if you are not subscribed to The Sum and Substance and you are looking for information on what is happening, especially in the state legislature or just in general in politics, he is the person to listen to. So I'm going to see, Ed, you are live on our screen here, but I have the presentation up and running. So we are going to just let me know and I will continue to drive and we can go with your presentation.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Kris. And thank you for the shameless plug, by the way. I'm going to plug TSS later as well. But thanks to everyone who's attending this, because it clearly shows you're interested in doing things to help the business community here at a time when that is really, truly needed. Oh, hold on. Let me set my timer here. There we go. So now I can keep track of how long I have to go. And I need that timer because I could talk to you for a very, very long time about the 2025 legislative session or sessions that we've just been through, as well as what comes next, as well as workforce development. But I'm going to try to go through this in as quick a way as possible, still explaining everything and leaving some time for questions and answers. Always focus on how this affects you. First of all, let me talk about how we got here. For those of you who don't follow the legislature on a day-to-day basis like I do, first of all, congratulations. But secondly, the way the 25 session was really set up was that the primary voters in 2024 came back in from both parties and said, you know what, I'm a little bit tired of extreme candidates. Democrats actually threw out 2 of their own in primaries in 2024. Republicans almost universally went for the more pragmatic candidate in most contested primaries. Now, in doing so, Republicans also helped to end the supermajority that Democrats had in the House. But as you see, there was still some really wide margins here. 23 Democrats to 12 Republicans in the Senate, 43 Democrats to 22 Republicans in the House. So Democrats are really in control here. But the one twist that's being thrown into here is you've got a governor who is also a Democrat who is starting to become even more of an independent thinker and exerting his will a little bit more. So next slide, please. The 2025 session can be one in which we really talked about big ideas. These are just some of the ideas. I'm going to go through the top ones here and then kind of explain what happened with them. I'm sure most of you followed the battle over the Labor Peace Act. This is Colorado's unique law that requires not just the majority of workers to approve unionizing, but 75%, 3/4 of those workers to approve the union taking money automatically out of paychecks for negotiating fees. The unions wanted to scrap that and say, we're going to go with most states' plans of just you vote you're in a union, the money's coming out for negotiating fees. The Colorado Chamber of Commerce opposed this heavily because we heard more about this than any other issue from our members saying, look, we can't be subject to this with the costs we're already facing here. That's one big idea. There were several big ideas in healthcare, including a bill that would have limited how much hospitals could charge to people in certain insurance categories, those covered by small group insurance, those covered by the state's plan. There were several bills competing with each other to talk about how the state could spend its 340B money. This is savings through a federal program that hospitals get on prescription drugs and has been considered key for rural hospitals in particular. There was efforts to go for a second time after groundbreaking AI regulations. In 2024, Colorado passed the most comprehensive artificial intelligence regulations in the country. But most people, even those who backed the bill, looked at it after and said, whoa, this is a little too strict. We need to pull back a little bit. And there was going to be a lot of debate about that. There was even a bill as well that would have offered protections to AI whistleblowers, not people who were reporting illegalities that their companies were doing. They already have whistleblower protection in Colorado, but expanding that for AI to people who are reporting questionable activities that their employers were doing. You see a couple of really big regulations being tossed at business as well. One, for example, would have defined price gouging as anyone raising prices more than 10% over the average price of a good over the last 90 days. Now, that law is already in place for disaster situations, as it is in most states. This would have expanded it in a way no other state had seen. There was also a bill on extreme temperature protections. These were protections for workers anytime the temperature dropped below 30 degrees or above 80 degrees or went above 80 degrees and they were working outside. And these were very prescriptive. There was one, for example, that said you must provide 64 ounces of water to workers who are working outside in hot conditions, and it must be chilled to no less than 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, business wasn't just sitting back and playing defense. There were several efforts to undertake regulatory reform. A big one was tossed around the idea of having a committee that looks at all state regulations, much like a committee now looks at all tax expenditures and decides should these be in place. There was efforts at construction defects reform after many years of trying to pass this. And there was even an effort to make nuclear energy defined as clean energy to help developers of small nuclear power plants to get certain funding because it's defined as clean energy. So what happened with all these big ideas? Next slide. Well, Governor Polis vetoed the Labor Peace Act. It passed on a party line vote, but Polis had said, I'm not going to move forward with this unless there is some compromise between business and labor. That didn't happen. True to his word, Polis vetoed it. That hasn't ended the debate. It's possible it comes back next year. Not likely, since Polis is still in office, but he won't be in office in 2027 because he's term limited. So we could see this debate again in 2027. Or what's more likely is a debate on the 2026 ballots in which unions have put forward a measure requiring just cause to fire any workers. That may sound simple enough, but that's actually not required under Colorado law. If a worker, say, is not working out, is not working part of the team, you as employers can now get rid of them, no questions asked. This would require much more detailed reasoning and proof that you have gone over with them over and over again what's wrong and given them a chance to fix it. It's something that could really chill working conditions, many people believe. Polis also vetoed several tech-related bills, including ones that would have required more out of social media companies and internet platforms to work with police and with parents. He has really come out and said, I do not want to interfere in the tech economy. Legislators nixed the hospital price caps bill. They nixed the extreme temperatures bill. They killed the AI whistleblower protections. Even legislators were getting involved saying, maybe some of these things are a step too far. And when they did pass bills like the price gouging bill, they tamped them down quite a bit. That was a bill that originally said 10% price hikes anytime is price gouging. Now it says it's got to be a declared disaster, although it did give Polis the ability to declare a economic disaster in the case of tariffs, which he has not done yet. The 340B bills were solidified so that hospitals can continue using this drug discount program. Regulatory reform did pass in a small way. There are audits that will be undertaken on some of the most regulatory divisions in the state government because of efforts of the Colorado Chamber and chambers like yours to try to push this forward here. There was a construction defects reform bill that finally did pass. Most of you may know the construction defects law is blamed as one of the main reasons we don't have condos. If you build a condo in the state over the last 20 years, chances are more than likely you'll get sued for it. This changed things a little bit, but builders say we're still not sure it goes far enough. And Polis put a little statement in his signing saying, we're going to track how many condos are built under this program. And if this isn't working, we're going to try something else. And lastly, I'd like to point out that the bill declaring nuclear energy as clean energy passed. And I point that out because if you would have told me that only one bill on the previous slide would have passed in the form it was introduced, I wouldn't have been betting on that one, but it was. Next slide, please. But that said, after the 2025 session, we weren't done because of the federal One Big Beautiful Bill, also known as House Resolution 1, a number of tax cuts kicked in that took money out of the state's budget because the state links its tax system to federal taxes. The federal taxes are cut. State tax revenues are cut too. The state was facing a $783 million budget shortfall. And so legislators went back into work to try to fix that. Now, they didn't want to deep dive on the budget cuts. They didn't want to be able to say, let's pick the budget apart here, but they wanted to look at ways they could put some money back in, eliminate some current tax breaks. And Polis wanted to throw in AI regulation because that issue didn't get solved in the regular session. So what happened in the special session? Next slide, please. Polis is required to give legislators a little head up on his budget cuts. But one of the big things that affected businesses is there were 5 tax breaks that were rolled back. These included tax breaks given to regional insurance offices, insurers who have at least 2% of their workforce here in Colorado used to get a 50% break on the taxes they paid. That has gone away. There used to be a vendor fee. If you're a small business, you know that you could get as much as 4.5% of the money that you collect in sales taxes. You could keep that money. That is going away. There are also breaks rolled back on special federal pass-through that LLCs and S-corps get. That was one way legislators sought to balance the budget. The state also is selling $200 million in tax credits. This is an unusual way to raise money for it. About $100 million of that will go to help fund some insurance subsidy programs that otherwise were going to lose funding. And another $100 million is going to go to the general budget. Ironically, the people who get first dibs on those tax credits, in which you buy now, you're paying probably and redeeming at 90 cents on the dollar in the future, are the same insurers that lost the tax credit. But in one of the biggest issues, the legislators once again kicked AI regulation down the road. So that leads us to, next slide, please. What's coming next? I won't try to get into the nuances of AI regulation, but I will say that the 2024 law that passed affects nearly everybody. It's a bill that essentially says if you are either an AI developer, and there's a growing sector here in the state of that, or if you are an AI program deployer, this could affect colleges, it can be banks, and that AI is helping to make a critical decision. This may be a decision about healthcare. This may be a decision about whether a job applicant gets looked at. This may be a decision about whether you're getting some kind of financial aid from a school or a bank. Then you must let the person who is affected by this decision know. And here's one of the big kickers. They have a right to appeal that decision. Now, small AI developers and deployers say that is going to grind the system to a halt. If every negative decision impacted by AI, anyone, for example, who doesn't get a job interview because AI sorted through resumes, is allowed to appeal that, you're going to find a lot of people saying, I'm doing nothing but appealing. And people are going to start pulling AI companies out of Colorado is the fear. A lot of people say, look, no other state is doing this. Why don't I just go develop in a state that doesn't have these kind of regulations at this point? The AI law was set to kick in on February 1st. It has been moved back to June 30th. And so between now and the end of the regular legislative session next year, which ends in mid-May, there's going to be a ton of discussion. How do we change this to make sure that we don't cripple the AI industry in this state? There will be more attempts coming at tax break rollbacks. One of the big focuses right now is that software sales, B2B, things that you buy specifically tailored for your company from an online source are now tax exempt. A lot of legislators say the time has come to end that. That's going to be a big point of contention. Some of the kill bills will return. The extreme temperatures bill is going to be coming back. We don't know exactly what the form it's going to be in yet. There is probably going to be a fourth straight attempt to make it easier to sue under deceptive trade practices, which can be a really big deal for any business that offers products or services to consumers who could claim deceptive trade practices on those products or services. There will be more attempts at regulatory reform. There will be an effort this year to further advance the idea of a committee looking at all regulations and deciding whether these are working or whether these have gone too far. A report that we had commissioned found that Colorado is the 6th most regulated state in the country. And this is one of the reasons that businesses are struggling so much to continue in the state because of the high costs of regulations. And there's even going to be some attempts at education reform. I'll get into some of the workforce development work that we've been doing that you all have been a part of as well. But Governor Polis issued an executive order after the session that basically said, I want to kick down the silos between the departments of education, higher education, and labor and employment, and make sure that all of the programs that are training our, whether it be our students or our adult learners in some kind of skills through school or through special training programs, work together. Right now, they don't. And if you're an employer, you've probably experienced this. We are heavily involved in this right now and trying to figure out a way that the system can work to make it easier for employers to get applicants with the skills they need, even if that means they are working more closely with local schools to create the curriculum to build those skills. Next slide. So I want to segue a little bit away from the legislative session with an area that is very important to me, if any of you all know me, and it's very important to the Colorado Chamber of Commerce, and that is workforce development. This has been a special push for us for the last 2.5 years, and we want to thank everyone who's been involved in this with us. One of the things we were able to do in the 2024 session was to pass a bill that funded regional talent development summits. And one of those was held in June in Edwards. We know that some of you all were there, in which we essentially forced employers and educators at the table to talk about what skills were lacking and how they could work together in partnership to get students trained in those skills. Right now, that has advanced beyond the summit stage, where a lot of ideas are collected, to the point of regional action teams in each of 7 regions across the state, where they're coming up with plans. And we're hoping that these are going to be very specific plans in terms of, hey, this is a specific career pathway, maybe say, surgical technicians. And here are the school districts that are going to be working with the following colleges, and they're going to be working with workforce centers to make sure that we have a pathway of students going into these. We will continue to be in touch with you, and I know folks such as the Vail Valley Partnership are heavily involved in these as well, reaching out to you and trying to get your thoughts on whether the things that are being proposed are going to make the difference that we're looking for. But the idea here is we have heard from employers the second biggest concern right now is that we just don't have the students with the talent, the specific skills they need to grow their businesses. We are working very closely with the state to change that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we're also working with the governor on this executive order that's trying to mash together some of the state departments and to come up with a plan that doesn't just mash together departments for the sake of mashing together departments, but that actually says, here is how it can be easier for you all to get your voice heard about the skills that are needed and to get a pipeline of students going if you are involved in that. So I'm happy to talk more about that, but what we really need from you, stay involved with your regional action teams through your local chamber and submit your thoughts on what is needed. Let us know what's most important to you in terms of workforce, and my contact information will be on the next slide here. And at the same point, please reach out to me to keep me informed of your needs, what kind of things you're watching from your area of the state, what's important to your business legislatively. Next slide, please. And the reason I ask that is for those of you who, as Kris mentioned, haven't gone to the Sum and Substance, it is a website that tracks all kinds of business policy and tries to make it very relatable as to what this means to you as an employer. I'm a 28-year former journalist, so I try to write these stories down the middle, giving you both sides of every story here so you can understand why a bill is running, what it would mean to you. You see on that slide is my email address, eclover@cochamber.com, my phone number, 719-659-7907. Please stay in touch with me about both workforce needs that you may have and about what kind of things you need me to shine some light on as they're going through the legislative process. And also, you see there is the website for the Sum and Substance. That's tsscolorado.com. Go check it out. You can sign up for free for the newsletter, which I put out every 3 stories I write. And I'm going to try to keep monitoring business issues for you all to help you understand what's going on that's going to affect you. And that, with 2 minutes left to go, is what I wanted to summarize. And I'm happy to answer any questions about what happened in the legislature, what's coming in the legislature, or what kind of things are going on with workforce development.
Well, that was a whirlwind, Ed. Thank you so much. Hopefully everyone's not like shell shocked out of everything he just went through. I hope we have some questions in the room because Ed covered a lot. And I know, I think for a lot of people who haven't been paying attention to the state legislature, AI seems to be almost like a sleeper item and something that people are not as aware of. We know AI is coming around and it's becoming part of our daily lives, but this risk potential, you know, it's a little scary going first. It's this first state trying to regulate this, but there's going to likely be some unintended consequences about how this is impacted, how people, you know, I can't remember the exact language, but essentially if you, the business, are utilizing AI, sometimes the definitions were a little fuzzy as whether you were actually an implementer or a developer just by using it. And I know that kind of scared some people because it would put those companies at risk because of using AI in their regular business decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was there's risk not only of the bogged down appeals process and everything that you've got to report if you are using an AI system, but there's also risk of lawsuits. One of the bills that was considered in the special session was really looking to share risk between developers and deployers, even when maybe that risk wasn't actually shared, when it was a singular decision from one or the other. And so there's a lot of issues that have to deal with minutia, but very important minutia that need to be solved here to really make this law implementable.
All right, we got a question in the room.
Hey, Ed, John Stabney, Northwest Cog. Thanks for speaking today. On the AI issue, who does the appeals? I missed that, or I don't know if you said it, but is this just like one little adjudicating group for the whole state, or like where do those appeals go?
Well, Right now, under the law, and I will say this, when two bills were introduced in the special session, both of them got rid of this cumbersome appeals process because I think this is one of the main sticking points. But under the law that has currently been passed and is set to implement on June 30th, it would basically be anybody who is affected can appeal directly to the company. So if you deploy an AI system, if your system is, for example, determining who may get a job interview with you and people don't get it, they can appeal directly to you and say, why did I not get it? What role did AI play in this? Prove to me that I'm not being discriminated against by the AI system that you may not even have developed, but that you're just using. So the appeals, it would go directly from the consumers or whoever it is affected to the deployer and the developer who were involved in the AI system that helped to make that decision.
Thanks, Ed. John Delk with JVAM. You brought up repeals of sales tax breaks on software as something that may be considered in recovering budget shortfalls. Is that, I haven't heard of this, and I'm curious if this is specific to like package software for like larger servers and data centers and things like this, or would this impact software as a service, you know, whether that's some CRM software or your accounting software that you use on a like monthly subscription basis?
Well, it's a great question. We're still waiting to see what the bill is going to look like. The origins of this was part of a larger kind of tax rewrite bill that came forward during the 2025 session. All of the controversial aspects of it were largely taken out of the bill. This was one of them. And I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but it was essentially any software, including software that is customized for someone, could be taxable at this point. I'm not sure where the dividing line is now. I believe it has, you know, if you're just buying something off the shelf in a Best Buy, that kind of software may already be taxable. This is kind of, I believe, anything, including the SAS, that is developed for businesses or for consumers. So it's a big enough change that there have been estimates that it would bring in somewhere between $100 million and $300 million to the state. So it's a lot of software sales that are going untaxed right now that likely would be taxed.
Hi, Ed. In regards to your strategic initiatives specifically to workforce development and educational institutions, are you working closely or at all with Colorado Mountain College? They seem to be a good example of nailing this concept.
Yes, I appreciate the question. Yes, right now, in terms of the big picture, and I'll talk about the governor's executive order, there's been a lot of discussion among groups representing business, for one, as well as groups that are, oh, hey, there's everyone, as well as groups that are representing education reform as to how this would work. The institutions are starting to come into this now. Obviously, nothing can be done really without working with them. And I will say Colorado Mountain College was the first institution brought into this. I know I've heard a great deal about the ability of local businesses to structure apprenticeship programs, to structure workforce training through Colorado Mountain College. What we're looking to do is make sure that's a lot easier with a lot of the other institutions, but also make sure that employers who may not know about this have an easier front door where they can come in and say, here's what I need. And someone in a new department can help you to get what you need to develop a course, to contribute to writing curriculum, anything like that can help businesses get the employers they need. So that's a long way of saying, yes, Colorado Mountain College is involved in this. And I know from working with some of you all how big a help they've been. I think we're taking some of those lessons as here's what we'd like to do on a broader basis.
And I also want to comment that Colorado Mountain College was present at the Regional Talent Summit in Edwards a few months ago, and I got to witness a great discussion between 3 different hospital groups all talking about the need for radiology techs and what can they do to train up, because that is a huge need and is ultimately leading to delays in people getting care because they can't get the images they need in a timely fashion. And how can CMC work with them to get that built up? And actually they're advancing some really cool classroom work in CMC Edwards so that they can start training people in the healthcare field so that they can do this imaging work. Any other questions for Ed? Again, always a wealth of information. It's kind of from a fire hose. But if you do want to know what's happening in the state legislature, I highly recommend Sum and Substance. Ed breaks it down for someone who's not a policy wonk into plain English, so you understand exactly what is going on, some of these risks. That's how I knew about the software sales potential tax. I know, stay tuned with the fact that what we're seeing happening at the federal government coming down to the state budget and those impacts I highly anticipate, and it's talked about a little bit. There's probably many more budget cuts ahead. And what does that mean for our local businesses, but also you as a resident of Colorado? It's definitely gonna be something to pay attention when the session starts in January. But Ed, I want to thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and expertise. Again, all of these slides will be shared out, so everyone's contact information, you'll have access to that. This video recording will also be posted online. So if you didn't catch the wealth of information on the first go, you can replay and take notes and get all of it the second time. So with that, I'm going to introduce Bridget. Again, thanks, Ed.
Thank you all, and please reach out to me with any questions you may have. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so for our next segment, we'd like to extend a special thank you to our sponsor, Martin Insurance Group. Their generous support has helped make today's event possible, and we're very grateful for their commitment to not only providing the Roaring Fork Valley with the insurance coverage that locals need, but also helping customers understand the why behind each product. Please join me in welcoming April Truelove from Martin Insurance Group, who will introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Bridget. All right, good morning. I'm April Truelove with Martin Insurance Group. I brought some of my team here. Raise your hand. Thank you. All right, I'm going to introduce Colorado Insurance Commissioner Michael Conway. Michael Conway was appointed as Colorado Insurance Commissioner by Governor Jared Polis in December of 2018 and was confirmed to this position by the State Senate in January 2019. Before this, Conway served as Interim Commissioner, a position he was appointed by Governor Hickenlooper in January of 2018. As Commissioner, Conway served as the Chief Executive of the Division of Insurance and oversees the regulation of Colorado's insurance industry. His role brings together consumers, the insurance industry, and other stakeholders to create an inclusive and fair regulatory approach to all lines of insurance, such as auto, health, homeowners, life, title, and workers' compensation. Prior to his appointment, Conway was the division's Deputy Commissioner for Consumer and Compliance Services since March of 2016. Before that, Conway was an Assistant Attorney General for the Colorado State Attorney General's Office from 2010 to 2016, where he represented the Division of Insurance. Please join me in welcoming Colorado Insurance Commissioner Michael Conway.
Thank you very much. Can you folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Apologies that you had to listen to my life story there. I keep telling my folks to send the short version of that, but unfortunately they sometimes send the long version. So again, apologies that you had to listen to that life story. So I'm going to speak with y'all today. I don't have slides, so stop me as I'm going here. But I'm going to talk with y'all about what's about to happen to our health insurance market in particular. And then I'm going to stop because I'm going to throw a lot of information at you and open it up to questions about everything that I'm about to tell you. And then if we have time at the end, I can talk about the homeowners insurance market and the work that we've done in that market and the work that we plan to do in that market too. But I think it probably will be the case that we're going to spend all of our time talking about the health insurance issues. And then I'm happy to find another time to come, and I'll figure out a time to come up there to visit with you all in person. I apologize that I'm not there in person. I would love to be, just couldn't quite fit it into my schedule. So want to talk about what's about to happen in the individual health insurance market in particular, and really kind of explain for folks that don't know why the government, at least from my vantage point, a key part of the reason why the federal government is shut down. So I'm going to give you some background, make sure that we're all kind of level set a little bit, but then I'll get into the meat and potatoes about really what's going to happen. So the individual market, it's where folks that don't have insurance coverage from their employer get their health insurance coverage. They don't have health insurance coverage from their employer, or they're not on Medicare or Medicaid. So it's a lot of small employers, a lot of folks, really probably your friends and neighbors. It's about, in Colorado, as we sit here right now, it's about 325,000 to 350,000 people. The reason why, a key part of the reason why the federal government is about to shut down is those 350,000 people, the vast majority of them, are about to lose a substantial portion of the premium assistance that the federal government provides to that market. And practically speaking, what that is going to mean is that we are going to see, on average, premiums increase across the state by about 170% next year. I want to stop and make sure that you heard what I said there, because it's an astronomically large number. We are going to see premiums increase by an average of 170% in Colorado next year. We've got counties, folks, actually some counties in your neck of the woods that are north of 200%. We have a couple of counties in the state that on average are north of 300%. Percentages are percentages. So I really want to kind of break it down of what it truly means for people. So for a family of four that makes about $130,000 a year, on the low end in Colorado, their insurance premiums for that family of four are going to increase by $13,000. And for your neck of the woods, out in the western slope, we're talking about $25,000, $26,000 premium increase next year for that family of four. So we're talking about middle-class Americans just getting hammered, folks. And that's why we've been talking for months, why we've been urging Congress for months to extend these tax credits going forward for into 2026 and beyond, so that we don't see those premiums increase. Because what's going to happen if those premiums do increase, if these tax credits fall away, and we see those huge premium increases for folks, it's going to mean that people lose access to healthcare, plainly and simply. Right? We're estimating right now that we are going to lose 75,000 people from the health insurance market. And you hear people talk about it quite a bit, that it's 75,000 people or 100,000 people are going to drop their health insurance coverage. I fundamentally and I passionately believe that is the wrong way to be talking about this. These people aren't making a conscious choice to drop their health insurance, quote unquote, drop their health insurance coverage. They're going to get hit with just an astronomically large premium increase that they simply can't afford. And they're going to lose access to healthcare because of it. Right? They're not making a conscious choice. They're not doing this because they just don't want to have access to healthcare anymore. They're going to be forced to lose access to healthcare because they won't be able to afford it. Right? So we're going to have people that are in the midst of cancer treatment. We're going to have pregnant women that are in the midst of getting ready to have a baby that lose coverage because they can't afford the premium increases, or they can't afford to pay their rent anymore because their premiums have gone up so much and they have to keep that access to healthcare. I mean, the choices that people are about to make and be forced to make are just going to be devastating. And then the stories that you're hearing from your families and friends, or you're about to hear from your families and friends that are enrolled in the individual market, are going to be really, really hard. So, like I said, part of what we've been doing over the last 3 months or so is to really start to get this message out as loudly as we possibly can. We've been urging Congress for more than a year, both within the state and at the national level, to try and get these tax credits extended, because, like I said, it truly is going to be devastating for folks. So that's the meat and the potatoes of what I want to talk about on the health insurance front. I can get into a lot more detail about things, but I know there's a lot of you in the room, and I want to make sure that I pause and give you a chance to ask any questions about those issues before I kind of move on to other topics. Like I said, I'm happy to talk about homeowners insurance and the issues that we're working on that front too, but I figured that this would be the main topic that you all would want to talk about.
I'll ask one while people can warm up of the shock of those numbers. What is the state involved in any way with our representatives? I know Congressman Hurd heck no a few weeks ago, and it seems like some pressure is being applied, or he's at least open to the idea of maybe a short-term extension for this. Is the state, insurance department even allowed to talk to our representatives in this way? Like, what are you seeing in your role in terms of our elected officials who actually have the ability to make an impact on this in Congress?
Yeah, great question. So it was the short answer to your question is yes, I've been having lots of conversations with our congressional delegation about this issue specifically. I was on a press conference with Congressman Pattison earlier this week. I've had multiple conversations with Congressman Hurd about the issue. He actually does have a standalone bill to extend the tax credits for a year, but it doesn't seem like that bill by itself, at least as we sit here right now, is going to get much traction. But I think he's at least engaged in the conversation, and I'm extremely thankful that he's engaged in the conversation to try and find a solution to move forward. And the piece that I didn't get into that is vitally important that I should have gotten into is the timing for all of this, right? And the reason why the government, I think, is shut down, the federal government is shut down right now. We need this to happen today, folks. Open enrollment starts on November 1st, and I'm using today in air quotes. Open enrollment starts in about 3 weeks. In a normal year, we would have already finalized the rates for next year. We would have loaded them with Connect for Health Colorado, where people go to shop for their health insurance coverage. We're scrambling right now to try and find as much wiggle room as we possibly can, and give Congress as much time as we can to actually get these extensions in place so that we can get them implemented for next year. But the clock is ticking, and it's ticking very, very loudly at the moment, right? We're talking a matter of days before it's going to be exceptionally difficult for us to make a change. And there will be downstream consumer impacts if that happens, right? We're going to have consumers that are confused. Consumers are going to get notices that they have these huge premium increases of thousands and thousands of dollars going into next year. And it's going to make it exceptionally difficult to get them back and tell them that, hey, those premium increase notices that you got, they were wrong. And we've now solved the problem because Congress has acted. So we really need Congress to act, and we need them to act as fast as they can.
For individuals in the room, what do you suggest that they do to have maybe some impact on this?
All your Congress people, and not just your Congress people. The point that I keep making is that, right, that these folks, they obviously have their own districts, but they represent all of us. So call all of them, email all of them, tell them that it's incredibly imperative that they get this done, and they get it done quickly.
Can you speak to the ripple effect? I know we're talking about individuals on the individual market, but everything I've read is it's bigger than that. It's not just, I have a group plan, I'm fine, this doesn't impact me. Can you speak to kind of the ripple effects of this?
Yeah, so that's absolutely, unfortunately, incorrect. So the point that I've been making as I've gone out and been talking about this over the last couple of months is that there isn't a corner of our healthcare ecosystem that is going to be safe from the challenges that are coming, and they're going to be incredible challenges. So it's like I said, it's about, right, we're estimating right now that it's about 75,000 people that are going to lose access to healthcare just from this piece, right? Just from the loss of subsidies in the individual market. And once you package on top of that the cuts to Medicaid from HR 1 and the loss of coverage that we're expecting to happen in the coming years from HR 1 and the loss of folks losing their Medicaid coverage, it's going to be an additional 100,000, 200, maybe as many as 300,000 people that lose coverage there. So those folks are still going to get sick, right? And they're still going to go to hospitals to get care. They're going to end up going to the emergency room instead of getting preventative care to try and keep costs down. They're going to go to the place where the most expensive care exists, which is the emergency room. And that is going to be uncompensated care. Right? And the hospitals are going to have to try and find ways to make up that loss of compensation, right? And it will find its way into the rest of our commercial market as a result. Employers are going to end up paying and being forced to pay increased premiums starting next year because of what's going to happen in the individual market if these tax credits don't get extended, and then going forward too because of what's about to happen in the Medicaid market with the loss of coverage. And it's not just that employers are going to have to pay higher premiums because of all of this. Folks, there is a real risk that we're going to start to lose rural hospitals, not only in this state, but throughout the country, right? Our big metro systems, they're going to have the ability and they'll find ways to absorb the loss of the increased uncompensated care that they're going to have coming through. But our rural hospitals don't have those margins, right? Our rural hospitals are constantly trying to fight to keep their doors open. And this is going to have a real devastating impact, or I fear it's going to have a real devastating impact on rural hospitals in particular. And it's not just, and the part of the reason why that's the case is that the biggest increases that we're going to see from the loss of enhanced premium tax credits, the biggest premium increases, it's going to happen in rural Colorado, right? And it's going to happen in rural America for that matter, not just in this state. It's going to kind of pervade through the country, that rural Colorado, rural America is going to absorb the vast majority of the pain that's coming.
Thank you, Commissioner. You have some questions.
So our agency is strategizing and trying to get more small employers to offer benefits this quarter before January 1st, to lock in those rates, to push this off for another year, to keep employees covered. What are your thoughts on that?
I think every strategic move that you can help your consumers make right now, help your employers make right now is great. I think it's right to kind of frame it that you're pushing it off for a year. I think it will hit them a year from now, but at the very least, you will have brought them a little bit of time, and who knows, maybe Congress will act in that period of time, in that 1 year period. But I think the other piece that I would really encourage you to have some conversation with them about is to just explain what's coming and why it's coming, right? It's never too late to make changes, right? It's never too late to improve situations. And I think the more that we can really educate folks about what's coming and why it's coming, right, I think the better off we'll all be. We're about to be back to a place, and whether you like the ACA or you hate the ACA, it had a huge impact on decreasing the number of folks, our uninsured rate in the state. We're about to be back to an uninsured rate that actually reflects the world before the ACA, right? We're going to be back in a 16, 17%, I fear that we're going to be back in a 16, 17% uninsured rate in this state. That's crazy, right? We did so much work. We've done so much work over the last decade, more than a decade, but really the last 8 years in particular, to improve our healthcare ecosystem across the board. And the idea that we're going to be back there because of really actions that we had no control over, things that are happening at the federal level, is just sad, candidly.
And so you're expecting these increases to be a result of losing subsidies, the funding for the subsidies?
Yeah. So to give a little bit more background on that front, so the insurance companies, they requested about a 28% premium increase going into next year. And the point that I keep making when I tell that to folks is that number is completely irrelevant. And the reason why it's completely irrelevant from my vantage point is because the 174% number that I told you before, that number is the vast majority of that premium increase is the loss of subsidies, right? So to really put a fine point on it, let's make kind of a make-believe world, a hypothetical world where the insurance companies, they just didn't request a rate increase. They just came in flat and they said, hey, we're going to keep our base rate at the same exact level that we have for 2025. So for 2026, we're not increasing our rates at all. Even if that were the case, people would still be seeing about 150% average rate increase going into next year because of the loss of subsidies, right? So that's why that 28% number, and that 28% numbers, it's going to come down because we got a bill through during special session to help a little bit. So it's going to be closer to the 22% range, I think, when everything is all said and done. But those numbers, right? That number is really irrelevant to people from a practicality speaking standpoint, right? It doesn't matter to somebody that has 150% rate increase or 170% rate increase that the increase came from the federal government or the increase came from the insurance companies themselves. They just want somebody to help. The great thing about that is that the federal government right now can help. They can extend these tax credits, and that number will come down dramatically, right? We won't be talking about 170% rate increase. We'll be talking about a 15, 16% rate increase.
All right, one more.
Yeah.
So I know that the carriers refiled rates, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Should we have an answer next week on what those
No.
are, those final rates? No.
No, you won't have an answer next week. So she's right. So to give you a little bit more background, when the governor called the special session, we really urged him, and we're thankful that he included it in the call to try and do something to help people as much as we possibly could. So we did get, and we got a bill up and running, and we thankfully got the bill through during the special session to get $100 million into the individual market, in two primary ways to alleviate a little bit of the pain that's coming. So we got $50 million into our reinsurance program to make sure that we were maximizing the impact that we can possibly get from our reinsurance program and really get to the same level that we've had over the really every year that we've had the program in place. For your neck of the woods, that it means that we're going to actually hit about a 35% premium decrease from the program. Now, premiums are still going to go up, but they're just not going to go up quite as much. And then the other piece that we were able to get through was we got additional funding for our premium assistance program. We got up that premium assistance program up to $75 million for next year to really help people below 400% of the federal poverty level replace as much of the subsidy that they're going to lose from the federal government as possible. But that's why instead of, right, if we hadn't gotten that bill through, I'd be talking to you about 100,000 people or 110,000 people losing access to healthcare coverage. That bill, that $100 million, is going to mean that about 25,000 people keep their health insurance coverage. So because of all of that, we had the insurance companies refile their rates. We're still in the midst of reviewing those rates and finalizing those rates. We're actually making the insurance companies file a third set of rates with us to be prepared if the federal government does extend the tax credits kind of here at the last minute. So we're going to be announcing at the end of really pretty close to the end of this month, which is what the final rates are, which I know is much later than we normally do, and it's much later than I would want to announce those rates. But this year is obviously quite a bit of an anomaly.
Commissioner, I think you can see the room, hopefully, with one of our cameras. Just show of hands, who's on a group plan? Who's on the individual market? Okay. Just want to see, but obviously, yeah, about 20%. All right, we got one more question.
Can we go to school at all on this, on a concern for Medicare and the VA? Whether it be ripple effect or what you might be planning for, concern for in the medium term in terms of Medicare even?
Yeah, so we don't have regulatory authority over Medicare, but I have a lot of concerns. I think multiple concerns about Medicare. I think the most direct kind of impact for Medicare, and it's an indirect impact that I am worried about, is if it turns out that I'm right, that we have hospitals, and it's not just me, to be clear, it's right. The people that are much smarter than me are predicting that we're going to have hospitals close. If it turns out that we do have hospitals close in particular rural Colorado, it's going to hit Medicare recipients really hard, right? It's not, I mean, the ability for those folks to travel is not always the greatest, not always the easiest, obviously. So having access to healthcare facilities that are close is incredibly important. But I think the more existential threat that I worry about for Medicare, candidly, is I'll just say candidly, is the way that HR 1 was talked about, right? HR 1 was talked about, and it was sold, and it continues to be sold as trying to right-size Medicaid, right? And I'm just going to paraphrase, right? And get rid of fraud, waste, and abuse. But the practical impact of it is that we're going to have hundreds of thousands of people in this state lose Medicaid, really through no fault of their own, a huge chunk of them through no fault of their own. So I worry that I am very, very worried that that we could possibly see similar conversations happen around Medicare and potential cuts to Medicare. Because that is one of the other big sources of cost for the federal government, right? And obviously there's a large focus on trying to find ways for the federal government to save money right now. So I really, really am worried that we're going to start to see attention paid to Medicare and cuts to Medicare, and that will be just devastating. Again, it'll be another hit to our rural hospitals and obviously to our rural communities in particular.
Do we have any other questions on health insurance before we transition to other types of insurance? All right, I know we had initially a question about property insurance, but I'm going to dive into it. We are obviously in a wildfire risk zone, and there's been a lot of really great local efforts in terms of wildfire mitigation, and essentially our communities, particularly local governments, trying to do the right thing and have our areas be prepared. But that doesn't always work with the insurance models that are out there. So obviously we're a wildfire state. How does that work in terms of the property insurance rates, certain carriers trying to pull out of the market, people just not getting policies renewed? What are you seeing, and are there opportunities for us to essentially mitigate with mitigation?
So yes, and you brought up models, and I'm glad you brought up models. So one of my bigger frustrations when it comes to the homeowners insurance market has been the impact that wildfire models are having, not just in Colorado, but really throughout the country. And in particular, that frustration has really kind of surrounded the fact that we've been telling both, when I say we, both insurance regulators and the insurance industry and insurance agents for that matter, right? We've all collectively been telling folks that the key to availability and affordability, but in particular availability when we're talking about wildfire risk, is mitigation. But when we started to dive into the models and really try and wrap our arms around the models, and very specifically trying to get an understanding of how models were actually accounting for mitigation that communities were doing, what we were constantly running into is that we had no ability to ensure communities, individual property owners, that the mitigation work that they were doing was actually being accounted for in the models. And it was hogwash from my vantage point. It meant that to some degree, we were kind of lying to people. And the reason why I say that is, right, like I said, we've been telling folks for decades that they need to mitigate. But if the models that are making all of the decisions, or the vast majority of the decisions for underwriting, meaning where insurance companies are willing to write homeowners insurance coverage, but in particular then also pricing as well, if we couldn't ensure that the models were accounting for that mitigation, then we weren't doing our job from my vantage point. So we went to the legislature this year, that last session, and we got a bill through, House Bill 1182, to really, it does a whole bunch of things, but its core purpose is to put requirements around insurance companies and the models that they're using. Because for the vast majority of them, vast majority of insurance companies, they're actually using third-party modelers. They're using third-party modeling companies. So we wanted to put controls in place to ensure that if individual property owners are mitigating, if communities are doing work on the mitigation front, and in particular, if they're mitigating to what's referred to, or not referred to, what is the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, IBHS, their mitigation standard, that consumers are getting credit for that, the communities are getting credit for that. We also put in the ability for consumers, for homeowners, to appeal their wildfire score if they have done mitigation and they don't think that they're getting credit for it. We put a bunch of transparency requirements in place so that we can get information to homeowners and communities about what types of mitigation actually do work, and what type of mitigation you're going to get at least some credit for. But I think the most important component here is to make sure that we're incentivizing the right work, which I think is the core part of your question here of, right? How do we get information to communities? How do we get information to homeowners about how to mitigate and where to mitigate? That was the core structure of 1182. So we're in the midst of implementing it. It doesn't actually go, it won't be fully implemented, and it won't be fully up and running until the middle of 2026. So we're in the midst of putting the regulations together about what exactly the companies will have to do and what exactly they'll have to disclose. But we'll, at the very least, once that is up and running, be able to get you all information about to answer those exact questions. And because we got 1182 through, we have IBHS, which IBHS is the easiest way to think about IBHS. It's kind of a think tank for really the insurance market and the insurance industry in particular. It really focuses on catastrophes. So for a long time, they focused on hurricanes and high wind events, but now they've shifted, and they're talking a lot about wildfire and hail, and focusing a lot of their efforts on studying wildfire and hail, which are our two biggest impacts in the state. Hail by far being the biggest impact on affordability, but I can get into that too. But 1182 is going to be the key going forward for the work that we've done. We had another bill last session, though. We had another bill. It was House Bill 1302. We got that bill through the House, and we ran into a roadblock in a Senate Business Committee right at the end of session. What we were trying to do with that bill is two core things. One, we wanted to address the hail problem that we have in the state. And the hail problem, when I said it's the driver of our affordability issues, about 55 to 60% of the insurance premium on average across the state is paid for hail risk. So you all, as much as crazy as this is going to sound, many of you in that room right now, a portion of your homeowner's insurance premium is actually for hail risk that impacts the entire state. And I know that sounds crazy because I know you all don't get very much hail out there, but those are the facts. So we have to figure out a way to address the hail problem that they have in the state. The good news on that front is we know how to do it. We have to fortify roofs against hail. So we need to be able to provide a little bit of money to folks to replace their roofs with fortified roofs, so that they can withstand hail events. The other part of the bill was we wanted to find a solution for the wildfire issues that we have in the state. And in particular, right, the biggest issue that we have from wildfire, it's not really an affordability issue. It is an availability issue, right? We don't have as much competition in our high wildfire areas of the state because of wildfire. So we wanted to incentivize and find ways to incentivize by taking a portion of wildfire risk, setting up a reinsurance program, to take a portion of the wildfire risk in the high wildfires of the state to drive more competition, incentivize insurance companies really to go into like your neck of the woods. So that bill, like I said, we ran into a roadblock right at the end of session, but we're going to come back. So what I would ask you to do on that front is call your legislators, your local legislators, make sure that they know that you want them to support what was 1302 and whatever it is that the division brings back. But on top of that, and this is the most important piece, call and email the metro area legislators too, right? They need to hear from you all as well, because right, they don't think that they don't think that wildfire risk is anything that they should care about, which is somewhat crazy in light of the Marshall Fire. But they need to hear from you too, right? What we were hearing over and over from some folks on the really in the Senate, just in general, was that they don't think that they aren't hearing from folks about concerns related to homeowners insurance coverage. So we really need constituents to reach out. So badger those people in the metro area too.
It seems like it would be a fair trade hail for wildfire on that one.
That's why we put the two together. We thought so too.
That is great. So in a similar vein, I know we've also been looking at wildfire building code. Are you seeing that having any potential impact and maybe decreasing premiums, or at least, again, maybe not increasing them as quickly?
So I think we will. I don't think we're seeing it yet, but I think it's right to think that we will see an impact, and it's part of it was actually a big part of why we were so adamant that we had to get what was now House Bill 1182 through. Right, we have the WUI Code Board that was doing all of this work, and we have communities that are increasing their codes, and right there's a cost because of that. But obviously, we should see impacts on the other end of that to decrease premiums too. So that was a key part of the conversation, that if the state is investing in this work, if communities are investing in this work, then we need the insurance market to respond.
Thank you. I'm looking around for any other questions. I guess to wrap up, what else are you seeing? I mean, obviously we talked about some really big ones with health insurance and the property insurance market. Are there any other trends that this group should be aware of thinking ahead to 2026?
Those are the two that we're going to be really zeroed in on, because they have such huge impacts for our market. And they have impacts that expand outside of the insurance space too, right? With health insurance side, it has impacts on hospitals. On the homeowners front, though, what I'm very worried about is that if we don't find solutions for affordability issues and availability issues, for that matter, too, on the homeowners front, we could have communities where the real estate market just starts to be a very, very difficult market because insurance coverage is too expensive. People can't find coverage. We're not quite there yet, but I also don't want to get there. I don't want to get in front of that issue. I want to be in front of that problem. So that's why we're so focused on those two issues, because they're not just insurance problems, right? They have tentacles that reach out from outside the insurance space. So we really want to make sure that we're addressing those to the greatest degree possible.
Commissioner, I want to thank you for your time and also personally invite you to come visit us here in the mountains. We'd love to have you talk more about this. Fingers crossed that there will be some positive movement at the federal government in the coming days. But it sounds like we have two major takeaways that both involve phone calls and emails, both to your federally elected officials as well as to local, and hit up that front range group of senators in the state legislature. But Commissioner, thank you so much. This is incredibly informative, and I know some people are a little blown away in the room by some of these numbers, but this is really important for everyone in this community to hear, because it will really impact rural Colorado and rural America. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much. And just my email address, if you want to write it down, you can reach out to me. It's Michael.Conway, CONWAY, at state.co.us. Please feel free to reach out about anything. Keep your fingers crossed, but keep those toes crossed too, that we got some congressional action very soon. Thank you very much, folks.
All right. And with that, we are going to transition. This is a great time for a bathroom break while we got set up for our panelists for our Navigating Change business panel. We're going to get started. So up next, instead of just being talked at, we're going to have more of a conversation. And a lot of what today's presentation was about was change and transformation that's coming down the pipeline in 2026 beyond, whether it be a 9-month airport closure or budget cuts that are going to happen at the state level, changes in workforce and trying to educate the next generation of your workers, to very large changes in the insurance market that are going to impact all of us. So kind of take it down to a local level, we wanted to have this panel discussion, navigating change, and talking to some of our local business owners about how have they navigated change over the years. So our moderator today will be John Stavney with Northwest COG, which is the Northwest Colorado Council of Governments. Make sure I get that acronym correct. He's going to go into a little bit about Northwest COG. We work together a lot, but the average person probably doesn't know the behind the scenes of local governments working together. So with that, I'll have John kick off and introduce our panelists.
Thanks, Kris. John Stavney. I'm the Executive Director of Northwest COG, as Kris mentioned, and we're a regional organization that supports 6 different counties, from Pitkin right here all the way up to Steamboat Springs in Jackson County, Routt County, Grand Summit, Eagle, I should mention. By the way, in the room, if you didn't know him, stand up, Jeff. You saw the Pitkin County Commissioner this morning for the airport, right? Which I'm sure you're in Eagle County right now. And Jeff is the county manager for Eagle County, and he does office hours over here, by the way. So, but I'm with a regional organization, and we do a bunch of random things that don't quite fit in a basket for a local government. Our members are, as I said, municipalities and counties, but we do everything from aging services, supporting meals, to broadband. The city of Aspen gets their middle mile broadband through us, through Project Thor, as does a number of different places. It's a 478-mile loop. We support broadband from Clear Creek County all the way through Grand County to Steamboat Springs. We do business loans, number of loans in the valley, and weatherization. So a lot of things that make more sense at a larger level. I'm really honored to, let's get local today, huh? That's been really interesting what we've had so far, but we have a real opportunity with the three people here today to get local. And I'm excited about that, to be with these esteemed three women up here who are very well decorated, as I'm finding out here. Beth Blackmer, with Aspen Rental. Her father started that business in 1967, and she took it over in 2000. Is that correct? And is now passing it on to her manager, who's in the room, half passing. Okay. Well, what a great story, though. I think the succession planning is something local businesses ought to think about more, and maybe you can get to that a little bit later. But you have been, let's see, president of the American Rental Association, the first or second female president in the history of the association since 1955, so broken some glass ceilings. I'm really excited to have you here, Beth. You can fill out anything I missed there. We also have Breeze Richardson, who is the president of Aspen Public Radio, by way of, what's last 5 years? You said you've been here 4 years, 5 years? By way of Chicago. So those of you who are aware of WBEZ in Chicago, she was with public radio there, and a daily show producer, and has a degree in public policy, which I'm impressed with, from University of Chicago. So we have media management. She's not a reporter. She's at another level in media. So excited to hear from you about trends and what you're seeing. And Katie, I missed to ask how to say it. DiGiacomo. Okay, that's exactly how I was going to pronounce it. Katie DiGiacomo, with that Italian. As the owner of Hot Jobs Staffing and Recruiting. It's a local agency that has expanded to Florida, right? Recently. So you have a national perspective, it sounds like, on staffing and workforce and jobs. But we'll keep you local in here as much as we can, talking about trends. I think I passed over some. Yes, Beth is in the top 100 of Colorado Biz Magazine over here, top 200 private companies, and top 100 CEOs in the state. That's back to you. So we have another like 100, 200 thing here with you as well, if I recall. So you are in the 100 women-owned businesses and top 200 small businesses. And then you also are a certified disadvantaged business enterprise, which I'd love to hear about a little bit. So anything that you want to fill out that I missed there? No? Okay. I think all three of you, if I was sort of looking and guessing who you were, and as I came in, because we have not met before. And okay, up higher. So I'd like to start with what you observed since you've been here in the room since the beginning, since 8:30 or so, and no quiz. But was there anything? Yeah, we'll go to you first, I guess, is what she's used to being facilitator, so we're co-facilitating here. But after listening to the day's presenters, and it's okay if there wasn't something specific today, what's the most maybe surprising insight that you heard that maybe points to something that you may be shifting with your business? Anything that you saw that's like represents or part of something larger going on with your business?
How about I turn it on?
Boom.
Were you able to hear her, or do you want me to? Got it? Okay, airport closure, right? We all need to focus on airport closure. I think for me, I was probably with my colleague the most about the wildfire insurance rates and accessibility, because I just happen to have a reporter working on that story right now.
And so, though I am not in the newsroom and happily delegate that to the team of reporters we have at Aspen Public Radio, we talk a lot about the stories that the reporters are working on, especially the ones that are more investigative or what we call long form stories. So I think that's a big issue. And it's actually going to be broadcast as part of a series on the cost of living, which is funded by the United Way of Eagle Valley, which we were really pleased to have that financial support to do a series on cost of living. And I think when a lot of people think of that phrase or think of the kind of content that might come out of a story like that, it might be around childcare issues or food insecurity or access to affordable housing. But this wildfire insurance question is a big one, and especially up valley. So it was something that we wanted to include in the concepts of cost of living in our community. And so I was curious to hear about that and about House Bill 1182. I don't know, I wrote it down and sent it to the reporter like immediately.
I think.
Before the number would escape my mind. But I do have a degree in public policy. I do think that policy is locally at the state level and federally is a way to address cooperatively issues that we face. And so I was happy to hear the commissioner say that policy was one of the ways they look to mitigate and incentivize companies to offer us that insurance in this area. And there's so much mitigation work going on. I found it very comforting or positive, shall I say, that there was awareness that the mitigation efforts are happening and therefore should be compensated and rewarded for. I think that demonstrated some great communication between the levels of government and experience. And I was happy to be introduced to him and would like to hear more in the 2026 legislature about that work.
Great. So insurance, Kate.
Thank you. I think there's a ton of takeaways, and I'm sure that there's so many things that impacted and made a bigger stain than others. For us, being in staffing and recruiting, Ed's presentation is something that my team and I have tracked pretty closely. And we are involved in a lot of the other workforce initiatives that have been taking place, both within the local counties as well as CMC. So we've already tried to pivot to address these things, and we're going to be rolling out a lot more in 2026. One would be with the workforce and getting more up and coming younger work individuals into those trades and other specialties, whether it's healthcare or electrical work and so forth. So we do a lot of career coaching, and what we've noticed meeting with so many different applicants throughout the Valley, because our efforts are 100% localized. We're not recruiting throughout the nation and trying to get individuals to relocate into Colorado, although we talk to many of those, but our focus is to put our local community to work and pair them with the best jobs, which is a win-win for both the employer as well as the employee. So what we want to do is then get to know all our applicants and do career coaching, let them know what they're going to be getting into, what does that look like long-term for them, for their career, compensation-wise, because a lot of it, you don't know what you don't know. And they can get as much training as possible in the actual skill set it takes to be in that trade. But if they're not looking long picture of what their life and their career goals are, I mean, who in here knew what they wanted to do at 18? Don't look back at those years. And then the other takeaway, which I know we'll probably get is AI. Ed mentioned it briefly, but there's a lot of AI out there that can be applied to recruiting efforts. And as fun as that sounds, when an AI platform is trying to pull out keywords, no matter what the recruiting and hiring side of an employer's business is 100% a human-to-human experience. It's important for the employer. That's your culture, is their attitude, their work ethic, their spirit going to feed your business and make your business successful. But in turn, are they going to feel fulfilled by their employer and what they're doing every day? So those were my big takeaways today.
Thank you. I'll pass it back over here. So yeah, and the workforce thing is so abstract. Just the word is abstract, but I like how you tied that back to having two kids that just recently graduated from college, both of whom are with us. I live in Eagle, by the way, so a little different market, but not that different from Basalt, a lot different from Aspen. But it's prohibitive for kids. Yeah, you're Basalt, okay. To grow up here and have a vision of how you could, buy in and stay here, right? So it's something I've seen with many of those classmates. So thank you for working towards that. Off of the presentation specifically, but are there disruptions in your industry that you're sort of tracking It's funny, I had a whole list of them and Kris told me I was too political, suggesting and, leading the witness on all sorts of different possible disruptions going on right now. There's just a couple going on nationally, right? But any of those that you're sort of tracking and, navigating, if you will, with your business?
Well, I probably have the biggest elephant in the room, so I'll start and then hand it to you. Last week, after over 50 years of federal funding, the public radio and public television infrastructure of our nation is no longer publicly funded. So what that highly political act that was sold as defunding NPR and PBS, in truth, defunded local stations across this country. And here in our community, KDNK, Community Access Radio in Carbondale, has now lost over 27% of its funding, and Aspen Public Radio has lost about 10% of its funding. I run a little bit of a bigger shop. My number a little bigger than hers, even though in dollars, even though it's a smaller percentage, and it's going to hit us hard. And I think one of the things I've tried to point out in having this conversation with people is it's not like we applied for a grant that we really just like had our fingers crossed on or we've always gotten. And so we banked on it. Congressional appropriations for public broadcasting since the inception of the Public Broadcasting Act back in 1967 happened 2 years in advance. So the funding that I had in my budget for this year was appropriated 2 years ago. So I have actually had the federal government reach in and take that money back. And so to be facing a $154,000 loss in this year and a $210,000 loss next year and every year thereafter is a big deal for us. When I came and I was brought here to the Roaring Fork Valley to run the radio station, we were facing about a $500,000 annual deficit. And it was just this year that I introduced a balanced budget after cutting that deficit in half sequentially year over year to get to this point. So it's pretty demoralizing to have just, recreated a revenue and expense model that was balanced to a place where I'm now set back $200,000 again. So it's a huge impact, and it doesn't stop there. There's a lot of infrastructure we've built in this country over the last 6 years that we share and was subsidized by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, most notably our interconnected satellite system. And so in order to keep systems like that, we also cooperatively secure our music rights. So when you hear that little 10 or 20-second interlude of music on Aspen Public Radio, we've paid music rights to have the ability to air music. Our hybrid stations like a KDNK that plays a lot more music, obviously music rights are even more paramount to the core concept of their business. And when we do that corporately, we get better rates. So how do we reimagine and recreate 60 years of infrastructure no longer being subsidized or collaboratively managed? So I'll rush out of here at 11:30 because I have a 12 o'clock shared services, a national call. I'm on a working group nationally to think about how we can recreate those shared services. But there's some wins too. I think I'm just a big proponent of partnership, collaboration, and quite frankly, communication. So I have found myself in conversation with my peers nationwide at a rate that far exceeds anything else in my 25 years in this industry. So I think that's a positive. There's also a lot of private philanthropy that's recognizing the access to news and information is a fundamental right that's being taken away from us. If you don't know what's going on, you can't be pissed. So how do we,
Full stop. Full stop.
So perhaps the last thing I'll say on that note is some of you in the room might know that after the president signed the directing how public radio stations like ours, which is a community licensee owned and operated by you, could choose what content to put on the air, was violated. We, along with KSUT Public Radio in Ignacio and Colorado Public Radio, which serves our entire state, joined with NPR, and we are 4 plaintiffs on a national lawsuit suing the federal government for violating our First Amendment rights. So thank you.
Yeah.
So it's gonna, be a long road, but we have to fight back. We have to say that it is our right in this country, in a democracy, to have access to news and information and to know what's happening in our communities locally and regionally and nationally, and to be civically minded in that way. So that's the way we hope that our business will continue to show up for you. And that's because you make that happen as individual members, as businesses who underwrite with our company. I know a lot of you in the room do that. And I'd love to share more about how this approximately $2 million budget annually is financed and funded by our governments here locally, our individuals and our businesses.
Wow, I wasn't quite thinking when I handed it to you to start with, Breeze, but maybe I was subconsciously back there. First Amendment, let's start with that. The right to speech and whatnot. One of the first things I do, and I drive across the country back and forth a lot to the west usually, is I'd love to hear about the hog prices when I'm going through Twin Falls, or hear about what's going on with grazing in Nevada, or whatever. And so the local stations, Moab's one of my favorite ones, by the way, just really good arts. No offense.
No, they're in our coalition, so you can brag about
Okay.
any Rocky Mountain station.
But there is local flavor, and these are definitely, although there may be some spin at a national level, some people see they're really local stations. So I'm glad you underscored that. Beth, you want to talk about disruptions in your industry? I was going to make a joke about how your family's business since 1967. Really, there hasn't been that much activity here in the sleepy upper valley of Roaring Fork. It's about the same, right?
Yeah, it looks exactly like it did in 1967. Yeah, my father had a very good idea of what to do because it's been a strong thing, rightly or wrongly, but a lot of growth in this valley, a lot of construction. So probably for us in the construction industry is tariffs. I mean, it's not affecting us directly. We are not the builders, but.
Are you seeing yet? I mean, is it a fear of what that will be, or you actually are seeing numbers?
Yeah.
Prices.
Sorry, I had to ask him because I don't work there anymore.
Since
This is Zach Fisher, the owner of Aspen Reynolds.
Zach, we'll go ahead and take it right to you.
We are seeing impacts with the tariffs. We've actually had a lot of things that we ordered 6 months or so ago that actually have been held up. Companies have hired their own tariff attorneys to help navigate the situation. It's starting to come along and get figured out, but yeah, we have noticed a direct impact on it. Some companies obviously have started raising prices, which we have to either absorb or pass on. The future's a little uncertain right now. They're still really trying to figure it out. But a lot of holdup, a lot of things that we wanted, needed, we don't have because companies aren't fulfilling orders, or they have to call and say, hey, your price that was $10 is now $22. And that's tough for me, that's tough for them, that's tough for everybody.
Just to clarify, we own 450 pieces of equipment. So he's talking about the equipment manufacturers and the parts.
Yeah.
That's our big struggle, keeping that.
Yeah. Supply chain stuff comes right through you or to you, not, right? Okay. So
Zach owns 450 pieces of.
Yeah, Zach does. Okay. Well, hey, having been a general contractor building custom homes in the Eagle River Valley, boy, those price changes make a difference. And you're always kind of deciding, like, do I want to just keep this on the subcontractor and make them, this was the price you gave us, right? Or go back to the owner and say, hey, here's a 20% increase. We were cost plus, so it was easier to do that. But yeah. 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 So you're eating that. Katie, what's going on in the workforce hot jobs area right now that's disruptive? Anything?
So ours is more cultural. So in our space, the way individuals are searching for jobs, employers need to treat applicants more like a consumer, which is very different than it's been even just 5 years ago. So candidates expect transparency, flexibility, and speed. And again, going back to the AI piece, they know when there's a bot talking to them, and they don't want to be caught up in an algorithm. So for us, our goal and the way our team works is we contact every single applicant. We speak to every single applicant because we staff across all industries at all job levels. So it only benefits us to enrich our database with every single candidate that applies with us and walks through our door, which is great because there's absolutely no reason or space to discriminate because we want to see everybody. We will have a job for everybody. Because we actually do staff in Vail Valley as well. So
Yeah.
yes, we're not far from you. Even though we were born here and we're in Fork, but so that would be probably the biggest takeaway, because it's I'm sure who in here is doing hiring for their teams, or at least close to it. Oh, not as many. Okay. Well, okay, there they are. They were popping up. But I'm sure have your own frustrations of following up with a candidate 37 times just to get them on the phone to schedule them. It's very competitive. It's a very, very tight job market, and there's more jobs than there are the local talent to fill those jobs. So for us to be able to treat all of our applicants like a consumer and give them that white glove experience, just as much as we're trying to deliver the absolute best match to our client, that's what we're navigating every day. But that's changed a lot.
Yeah. Having been an employee, I'm not quite a baby boomer. I'm a little past the baby boom thing, but all of this talk about it's millennials and they're, whatever, selfish.
That's Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z.
Oh, don't harp on the
But I'm being a near boomer. I'm like, wait, I love my remote work, and I love, a lot of the flexibility that I have in a sort of executive level position now that I got to tell you, when I was pounding nails and I did that, I did not have. So little workers' rights is okay. You attribute that to sort of a generational thing, or just the culture has changed?
I think it's a little bit of both. I would say that generationally, it's actually extremely fascinating to be interviewing different applicants that are kind of born from those different generations. It's kind of like having kids. You've got 3 kids, and all 3 of them are extremely different. And you're all being raised in the same household by the same parents. What's going on? But Gen Z is fascinating because they actually have much better habits versus I'll call myself out as a millennial. They're not.
Sorry, I should have thought of that.
It's okay. I'm a geriatric millennial. That is apparently a thing. There you go, Kris. But they're not into the vices that other. But unfortunately, they were the generation that got exposed to the screens far too early, and because of that, they don't love tough conversations, or they don't want to engage in a lot of verbal or face-to-face interactions the way maybe the boomers or Gen X or the geriatric millennials. And that's also part of the career coaching and pulling that out of them and giving them that support. So when they're going into an interview, they can present themselves in the best way as possible, because an applicant is so much more than what's on the paper. It's not just their experience, it's their attitude. So that's been a major thing. And I think the more that we invest in our employees and then applicants too, to show them that side of life, it's not just going to aid them in their day-to-day in their job, but in their personal lives as well, in their personal relationships.
So a lot of small business. How many businesses under, say, 10 employees are in the room? Yeah. So you have a lot of extra time to sort of white glove your new employees, right? So it's a real challenge right now to kind of pull that together, right? But I do think small businesses actually do relate to their employees quicker, or maybe I don't know what do you see?
I think it just depends, with the small and mid-sized businesses, a lot of times there's not an HR team, or if there's an HR team of 1, and they're handling much more than hiring and recruiting. They're handling benefits and onboarding and training, and the list goes on. Or the owner operator is handling that themselves. And that's a heavy lift.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. And that's where the retention problem, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, a little bit later, but that's where the retention problem is almost just as equally as challenging as hiring.
Yeah.
Because it's such a tight job market. And again, there's more jobs than there are wonderful people to fill them. Mm-hmm. The employees know that they can quit a job and go somewhere else easily and find a new job within a week.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to change it up a little bit here. Lightning round. One word. And I know you're going to fudge one word, but one word to describe what you think the economy is going to be like in 2026. So, hey, it's only 2 months away. It shouldn't be that hard to see what's coming, right? 2 months? Yeah. 3 months. 3 months away. It's a quarter away.
I don't even know it's going to be like next week. I'm cautiously optimistic that I don't think we're going to see a lot of growth, but I don't think we're going to have a really bad recession. If we go down, it's going to be a flat one.
Excellent. You.
Well, like a good business owner who has been at all 3 chamber annual meetings in the last 3 weeks, right? Raise your hand if you've joined me at all 3 of those, right? So we got an economic outlook up from ACRA at Afternoon Blend last week. And so we're expecting a downturn, not in the construction industry, but kind of for everybody else. And so I think there might be just a little bit of maybe like hesitancy or like that just kind of a restriction where there's enough uncertainty that cautious optimism might take a little while to loosen purse strings or feel like risk is something we can embrace.
Yeah. Cautious optimism. That's one word. And but dash.
I'll go
risky. Okay. Yeah.
I say persistent. So I'm with Beth. I'm definitely in the more optimistic bucket. And I also am thinking about how, how difficult things were even 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And we're on an upslope. So I'm going to say persistent.
Okay. Let's persistent. We'll go persistent. We'll write that on the board. I don't have that behind me, but so, this isn't the first rodeo for any of you, I'm assuming, with challenges, right? I mean, there's been 2008 was terrible. Luckily, I got into local government at that time and got out of construction. But, and then we've had COVID and was really disruptive and you kind of took it along. So, I mean, what have you learned from previous disruptions and changes? I mean, I hate the word new normal, the concept of that, but we're dealing with change all the time, right? So let me make that into a question. Help me with that, please. You've been through this before. What have you learned that you think is going to be useful? Sorry, I was looking at Beth, but.
Well, I think it comes to culture. Like when I think about the 10 to 15 human beings I have on staff or 1099s that I interact with through the course of us operating the organization, I think there's a tremendous responsibility on me as a leader to create a culture that can address that retention, that can weather those storms. Those of us in the news business are exposed to just a lot. And so how do you compartmentalize that and try to kind of right size that access to information and don't let it skew you negative, but kind of keep your eyes on the prize. And so I think creating a strong culture and having a clear, not just mission and vision, especially for those of us in the nonprofit sector, but to have a strategic plan. I have found a lot of solace in having a strategic plan, a living one, not something you write once with a bunch of consultants and stick on a shelf, but one that really outlines what the pillars of your work are aiming to do and the tactics that you're investing in to accomplish those. I have found myself going back to that document pretty routinely, and it's given me a lot of confidence of what we're doing, where we're growing. I think part of that culture, at least for us, is listening. So I'm sure, as many of you know, our fall listener survey is open right now. I'm closing in on over 400 respondents, and getting that kind of feedback and listening to what those whom we serve want and need, I think really helps strengthen that culture in a way that can build some resiliency against what might be, impacting our work.
Yeah, when you talk about strategic plan, how often do you update that?
Well, I do consider mine true living. So if there's something in there that isn't working, I think we need to address that and talk about it. I also think there's a constant juggle between aspirational and practical. So, there are definitely some aspects of our strategic plan that veer a little bit more into the aspirational. So what are the steps we're taking to make that less pie in the sky and more rooted in what we're doing today? But I think at least once, to really answer your question, I think at least once a year. So in part due to the federal funding loss, our board of directors has constituted a strategic planning committee. And I will look for that committee to meet 3 to 5 times over the course of next year and really be, getting in tune with, making sure that that strategic plan feels good. But I think a process like that, which I know looks a little bit different in the for-profit world, but what are you doing? Why are you doing it? How are you going to get there?
Yep.
I think can be incredibly grounding to the kind of chaos tornado that can come your way any given day.
Ground your employees. Beth.
When I bought Aspen Rental from my dad in 2000, I saw nothing but going up. So for the next 8 years, I had a lot of growth. And then I lost 65% of my business during the recession. It was painful. One of the things I heard from different people in the market here was, oh, Aspen's always insulated from any kind of downturn. You don't have that here. So I sort of listened to that pretty well. Well, that didn't work out so well. So that probably the thing I learned the most in that was to really be watching your numbers, talking to in our case, the customers, the builders, really be much more in tune. So we were fortunate during COVID on the construction side. We never closed because we were considered essential. So my hours never changed. My staff hours changed and the amount of time we could be open changed, but I was there the same amount of hours. That was also when I was president of the National Rental Association, which included the event people. So if you can imagine, they lost 100% in 1 week.
Bam.
All the graduations were canceled, every wedding, every get together. So I spent the next number of months talking to legislators and everything else, trying to get them funding to get them back in business. So that was an interesting thing, although it wasn't affecting me daily. I was having sleepless nights for all my good friends that had completely lost their businesses. But they all made it back and they're doing well. So I learned a lot from them also on what they're focused on. So I'd say that the lessons for me in the 25 years of being in this industry has just been really staying focused and learning from your peers and talking with your peers a lot. I was in a peer group for 20 of my years in that, and that was a game changer for me to always know what was going on with different people, not necessarily right here, but around the country.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more question, actually. So the peer group thing is really important. And then there's definitely sectors or, like managers have a really good peer group, but I don't think planners do in the public realm, right? Clerks do, but I don't think public work directors do, so it's interesting who leans on that and who doesn't. And I think it matters. Having been a contractor, general contractor, working with so many subcontractors myself, one of the things I observed is there wasn't always a lot of structure and strategy for these small businesses. Well, you probably can speak to this too. And oftentimes during those growth periods, this is what made me think of this. I think people do lose track of the numbers. They get kind of frothy. Maybe they get a little less focused on they have an uphill climb to get to a certain place. They expand, they have more employees, and they're like, I don't know, I need to spend more time in the Bahamas and have my manager in charge. That's one version of that. Is the Aspen contractor market more like big scale, very established companies that have structure, or is there still a lot of sort of companies, and you can touch on this too, that are kind of small and go through that personality, leadership cycle that I see? It's almost like a bell curve of companies that kind of rise and then fall.
I would say we definitely have a very strong local contractor market. There are big national companies that come in and do some of the commercial buildings and that, but the homes, there are people coming in from other places building these homes now. But the vast majority of that, and I would say in all my years in the business, there was some changes in the top 20, but the top 20, the top people were still there. And what I saw, especially after the recession, was individual guys going inside to the bigger guys because it just was harder to try and keep going. So I saw a number of really pretty strong contractors roll into other ones. So that made some of those companies bigger. And then we work a lot with property managers and landscapers as well. And those companies have definitely stayed very local.
Thank you. Disruptions you've navigated?
So yes, I mean, the job market and COVID, I mean, that was a wild and really depressing ride. And then I actually was in travel and hospitality leading up to that too. So you're talking about the event side. So yes, kind of a double whammy. I think for that, I think as a business owner and actually also as a manager and as a leader, that's when the word pivot, and it gets overused and it's a bit trite, but it's true, is to recognize what's going on and pivot where you can fill the most need. So it's like from a staffing perspective locally here, of course, travel and hospitality is such a major part of the economy. Well, that was put to a stall. A halt, of course, during COVID, but then there were other types of staffing and jobs that came up that were in desperate need. There was, especially as they kept opening more and needing more, cleaning type crews and sanitation crews, things like that to keep public areas clean so people felt safe to be out and about. So it's always just being ready to pivot. Don't ever be caught on your heels. And I would say you can have goals all day long, but if you don't have strong systems in place that you're ready to flex and change, the goal doesn't matter.
Is it okay to get I always call them temp, there's probably a better term for it now, for a few weeks or a few months and kind of try them out and decide whether you want to hire them away from the temp agency? Is that okay?
It is okay.
Oh,
what a great question. Thank you, John. So actually about 90% of our business is temp to hire.
Yeah.
We can absolutely we do a lot of temp projects, whether it's seasonal or it's project based. I'm sure you work with a lot of different temps that will come in and do special construction projects and such. So there's a lot of different ways, but the best thing about the temp to hire or contract to hire, there's a lot of different terms for it. Both the employee and the employer get to try out the job and make sure that they think it's a good fit before they make a quote unquote permanent promise. I say quote unquote permanent because there's no permanent employment or guarantees in life at all, but it's a great benefit for everybody.
Yeah. So between that and maybe some point you made earlier about how I remember the white glove thing, but about how employees have changed. I'm always reminding when we're interviewing people we're hiring that the interview is a two-way thing. And so I don't know how much do you coach people on the optics of like how you post and how you manage an interview process and that, or are you just on the employee side of that? Do you coach employees? You're like, hey, if you see these things, maybe you ought to just move along to the next job.
So the answer is yes. We're lock and step with our employers to know before we're even sending them a candidate. We've vetted them thoroughly. So at that point, we've pulled them out to present them. So hopefully that's saving some stress and some of the screening time on the employer side for the hiring director, hiring manager. But we'll have those collaborative types of conversations before the interview takes place. But going back to the career coaching, we absolutely coach up our applicants. Interviewing it's a skill. What I'm sure anyone that's done some hiring here has found, there's actually people that are phenomenal interviewers, and that again, that's a great skill. They should be proud of that. But then, can they deliver in their performance once they start on a job? Are they just selling themselves in that one meeting? They get the job offer, and are they going to follow through? Which goes back to why the temp to hire can be a benefit. But that is part of the career coaching, because it also goes the opposite way. Sometimes there's some just absolutely incredibly talented individuals that they don't quite have that sharpness on their interview skills. So we coach them up.
Yeah. One of my favorite tricks is a callback interview and do a second interview. And if it's very different from the first one, I'm like, interesting.
On this front, I've had to import talent. Being a professional journalist is not something you just pluck someone off the street and say, here's a microphone, go for it. So we've had to look elsewhere for talent. And in the last 3 major hires I've made, we actually brought the candidate out after offer to check this place out, because predecessors of mine were having a really hard time with retention, that after being in this community for 6 months, they couldn't hack it for one reason or another. And it was just really detrimental to how small we are. So for the last 3 positions, after making an offer of hire, we've flown those people out to spend 48 hours here, kind of under the auspices of putting eyes on the place, kind of under the auspices of really getting to check out the housing market. But it is really that latter point you made about interviewing us, like really seeing how our shop works. I mean, there's days that I'm the only person at the radio station, and coming from WBEZ where there's 140 employees, and it is like that bustling kind of Hollywood version of a newsroom of people running back and forth. And that is not what it's like at APR. Like, it's me in my office, which any of you have stopped by know. So even that kind of shift in just like really putting eyes on a place. And so I think there was a point in my career when I would have scoffed at that budget of been like, I don't have thousands of dollars to fly you in just to like place. I've realized that's actually a really strong I just have a new hire line in the budget now, and having, making that investment has bore out in retaining that staff more.
I love it. You brought up the word housing, and so we have a hard stop at 12:25 in 5 minutes. So I'm going to say no housing questions and no tourism questions. We have avoided those, but I want to go to the audience. Do you have questions for any of the three of these in the 5 minutes we have here?
You know, while you're thinking about that, I want to put in a plug for getting involved in your industry as an association or a regional affiliation. If you've never really thought about that or thought about how that fits into your work life, I think now is a really great time, kind of regardless of your industry, to get involved with others. And there's a huge appetite for partnership and collaboration in this valley. And I think there's more and more associations and trade groups that are really realizing that value, whether that's the chamber, whether that's things associated. So I'm the president of the Rocky Mountain Community Radio Coalition. It's a 40-year-old coalition of little tiny, predominantly ski town oriented radio stations. And to be able to ask somebody else about a software acquisition and what they think about it, or hear about how they're launching a new internship program and how that's working out. I really want to put in a plug for getting outside of your own shop and into how others in your industry, there's so much you can learn. So I'm really glad Beth said that. And I wanted to echo encouragement for that.
Yeah, well, you're right on my fallback question. If there aren't any more questions, are there questions for the audience? Okay, Beth and Kris and Katie. Well, then is there something that we brought up today that you'd like sort of hammer home as important, that you'd like to share, to the audience, that, you'd like to bestow as an important thought and reinforce maybe?
Sure. What I would like to drive home would be invest in your people, and not just in how you're hiring them, whether you outsource to a recruiter or you come up with these that's a fantastic way to help retain for turnover. Invest in how you staff for them, and then invest in your onboarding and your training and your mid-level management to keep great talent in-house. Because the job market's just so tight. That's one of the best things you can do for your business to prevent turnover and to keep growing and operating and be successful.
Invest in people. Beth. She took the.
I'm not
the peer group.
I'm not totally retired. But one thing I would say, because I do have more time to do it, is I am also the board president of AVSC right now. And I would urge that, as hard as it is when you're working really hard, but do stuff for your community.
Yeah, I love it. As a moderator, I'll take one thing that I see a lot, and coming from the sort of town manager sphere, and I've been 9 years in this regional level, is that I think I'm around mostly working managers who are fully into the work. They're not, sort of like executives, like we think of executives and I often urge people, whatever percentage of time, or if it's certain hours a week or a month, to set aside some time to reflect on what your business is doing and how it's going and your people and whatnot. Because I think leaders who always have their nose in, and I've worked for people who made a point of being the first person there and the last person to leave for 40 years, and that's how they led. And I think that's good, but I often see folks that don't kind of periscope up and look as things are changing and adapt. So dedicate some time to that. I would like to thank the Basalt Chamber, and wait, got one more? Yeah. Did you? You led on it, but that's
Well,
okay.
led on it, but what great advice you guys gave. For those of you who don't know, Aspen Public Radio hosts the volunteer fair every year. It's our give back to the community. And so we'll host that event again in August of 2026. If you want to kind of have your antenna out, we had over 30 organizations who rely on volunteers to do their work in our community. We held it this year in Glenwood. In collaboration with the public library, and actually shut down Cooper Street. So it looked like the farmer's market, except every booth was a volunteer organization here in our community that's looking for you as individuals and businesses to support them. So there are so many ways to get involved. There's so many ways for you to strengthen your role in your industry in this community. And I think our people are really what makes it all happen. So thank you for being here today and for staying engaged in this incredible, incredible place where we live.
Yeah, thank you to the panelists. We're going to have a round of applause.
So just a bit of housekeeping. Again, thank you to our sponsors, Martin Insurance Group, Roaring Fork Club, Darren Cloud State Farm Insurance, Floss Aspen, Terrain Eval, and CCY Architects, as well as our Trailblazer members, Alpine Bank, Howard Head Sports Medicine, First Bank, the Stedman Clinic, and Valley View. Huge thank you to our panelists. Huge thank you to our speakers. We're so glad Ed Seelover and Commissioner Conway were also allowed to join us. This video will be posted on YouTube for later viewing, as well as all of the slides from today. We have a lot of leftovers. Please help yourself to more bagels and fruit on the way out, as well as snacks. You will receive a survey from us regarding today's event. Any improvement, again, as Bree said, listen to your clients. We also, please complete the resident sentiment survey for the tourism grant, as well as if you're in the tourism industry or you consider yourself tourism adjacent, please complete that stakeholder survey as well. And talking about giving back and getting involved, please consider board of directors. We need great people to help guide this business community, and it helps with volunteer support and guidance. So happy to talk about that further. Thank you again. Thank you to RMI, and really just grateful for all of you to be here today. I hope you learned a lot. I know it's a bit of from the fire hose, but that's what we do here at the Chamber. We want you to be in the know and have this information to make really good business decisions and strategic changes as you get ready for 2026 and beyond. And with that, have a great day.